bottom, hit the red button that says subscribe. If you guys are on Twitch, it's a purple button that says follow. Do me that favor real quick. Every single episode of this podcast is brought to you by Marco V Cigars, and I want to tell you about their 6-step process, okay? Step 1, from the seeds to the 9-foot-tall tobacco plants, every step is monitored by Marco V's agricultural experts. Each tobacco leaf section produces a slightly different flavor, so leaves are harvested in small groups to precisely select the flavor of each cigar. Step 2, leaves from the part of the tobacco plant are hung. God damn it, I can't read, you guys. Step 2 is the curing. Leaves from every part of the tobacco plant are hung in the Dominican and Nicaraguan curing barns. Beginning, the leaves transition into the brown, curled tobacco that you guys see inside of the cigar. Step 3 is the fermentation process. After the curing barns, the leaves are fermented in pylons to remove distracting taste and enhance the purity of the tobacco. The entire process can take up to a year, and that's time well spent in the pursuit of the best cigars in the world. Step 4 is the roll. Each of the cigar rollers has at least 15 years of experience, guaranteeing that your cigar was made by somebody who knows and loves this art. Quality still comes from the hands. Step 5, that's the aging process. Marco V cigars are aged for up to 5 years, allowing for flavors to blend and mature. This final process paves the way for a smooth, unique taste in every Marco V cigar. And finally, it's step 6, the smoke. At long last, the cigars are banded, packed, shipped, and arrive to you to enjoy. Celebrate your triumphs by going to Marco V Cigars and using promo code Extravaganza 15 to save yourself some money. And they always have fast and free shipping as well, you guys. Every episode of this podcast is also brought to you by Tone Vault Audio and Media. Here's the deal. Go to tone-vault.com/JSE and use promo code 15SINGER to save yourself 15% on all their audio products. With them being a sponsor of the podcast, they came in, Matt came down here, helped me rewire my entire system, so everything we're using is Tone Vault products as far as the cables go. Wired up my drum set in the other studio as well, and I couldn't be happier. The quality of these cables is absolutely top-notch. You can compare them to Mogami for a way lower price, and they of course have the same warranty as Mogami as well. So if they stop working, if they get damaged, doesn't matter, call them, they'll take care of you. All right, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. All right, we're live. We're live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. There's no other reason. All right, boom. We are working. We are officially going, baby. Sanders, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Let me just get all this shit closed down for all the viewers that are already in here with us. All one of you.
Aw.
We love you. You guys are the best.
Could be me. Nope.
No, it's not.
I think I clicked the...
It's all good, dude.
The only one watching us.
So what's new, man? Making some venison? You said a couple weeks?
Probably next weekend.
Next weekend?
Yeah, we picked up our half a hog a week ago, so I finally got all the fat to put in the sausage.
Oh, so that's
later than usual.
I
Want to go buy it more than we get like a year's worth of pork all at once.
Sure.
So
I just got a half a pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
Nice.
Lot of fucking sausage. got some side pork making got to go bring it up to dude, okay, check this out. In the city of Minneapolis, the entire city, you are not allowed to bring in meat to a butcher shop to have it cut up unless it has a USDA stamp on it.
Yeah, it's going to be inspected.
This is Minnesota, where we have an avid hunting community.
Yeah.
So if you live in Minneapolis, you can't have somebody else chop up your food for you. You have to bring it out of the cities to like Anoka. I have to bring my pork, my side pork, in order to get it cut
and like
and cured
into bacon.
Into bacon.
Dumb.
I have to bring it to Anoka, dude. Like, this is that classic thing that I'm always ranting about on this podcast. I sound like a fucking Republican, dude, because I'm like, these goddamn commies. like meddling in my life, the government trying to tell me that they can keep me safe.
Right.
It's like, dude, so you obviously know what I'm talking about. It has to be inspected. What is inspected for what? Like chronic wasting disease? Like, what are we actually worried about here? What are we talking about? Where'd the problem come from that this law? Because that's the other point that's the other side of the coin, right? As I always rage about this, I'm like, but the reason we have laws in place 9 times out of 10 is because somebody fucked something up before we got here, and they needed that law for some reason,
right?
Whether it's still applicable or not. It's not true for all laws, but 9 out of 10 times I say it was. So what was the original problem? Like, what the fuck are they looking for?
Well, they would need to know if it was like how the meat was procured, I suppose. Like if you shoot a deer in season, I'm pretty sure probably in every state you would have to like supply them with your license and like the tag that you used to take that animal before they could process that animal.
But what about a pig?
But they're taking like a whole animal. You're not just like bringing them meat to do things with.
Right. But what about like a pig? You see what I'm saying? Or what if like roadkill?
Sure.
Because there's certain states where you can like.
I don't think they'd be able to process it in their facility without like the inspection, USDA inspected.
So fucking stupid, dude.
Right. But there are some states like you can't sell and process wild game. Like I couldn't sell you a backstrap from a deer. That would be illegal. I'd give it to you. But in some states, they have kind of worked around the law, like for invasive species. Like if you go to Texas, you can buy access deer at restaurants, which is venison. But you can't buy like whitetail deer
because it's not invasive.
You can get like elk and white-tailed deer meat at restaurants, but most of it's from like New Zealand. But it has to be like raised in a certain way, and it's the dumbest thing ever.
Huh.
But they also don't want some chef from a restaurant going like capping some deer to sell it in his restaurant, either, like out of season. I think a lot of it came from that because there was like commercial hunting way back in the day, which is why we almost ran out of everything because people were getting paid to kill everything.
Gotcha. Hunting shit to extinction.
Yeah.
That kind of shit.
Just for the money, not necessarily like for the meat.
Yeah, that's basically what poaching is, right?
That would be poaching now, yeah.
Yeah, commercial hunting and commercial fishing, that's like, it is what it is. But poaching is when you're just doing it for money, right? Or is that when you're doing
poaching would
parts?
Just be doing it out of season without a license.
Oh, really? So anything illegal?
On a property you're not allowed to be on.
Okay, so poaching is literally just illegal hunting.
Basically, yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, if I had a stand like on a field edge and the deer was on the other side of that property line and I shot him, that's technically poaching.
Even though you're on the correct side of the line? That's interesting. So it's where the kill happens?
Or if I was to shoot a deer and he hopped the fence and I went over there and trespassed, technically it was illegal take of that animal without permission from that landowner.
Crazy.
So you could get fined for poaching.
Even today, that seems unreasonable because it's like, I get it, how easy it is to contact people nowadays.
Would you be prosecuted for that? I don't know. But there are a lot of people with like poaching on their record for stuff like that. Like they went to their neighbors and got a deer they saw that was laying there. Tried calling the guy, couldn't get a hold of him. The smart thing would do to be like, call your DNR officer because they can go do whatever they want on private property. They can just walk through. They don't need permission.
No.
Yeah. There's cases of DNR, right or wrong, I don't know, going through, if they're like suspicious of activity, they can go through your property and go look at your game cams and make copies of your SIM cards. Take all your photos, all your videos.
That's insane.
Yeah.
They don't need a warrant? They don't need nothing?
They don't need nothing.
That's, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
The Constitution's the Constitution. I don't think...
Yeah, DNR has a lot more power than most people realize.
Holy shit. Yeah, I had no idea. Somebody's got to be able to challenge that in court someday, and they'll win if they do.
But I also don't think they're gonna waste their time unless they're like, on like if it's June and they're seeing a dude like with a rifle walking through his woods with camo on, they might go take a little peek.
Sure,
but
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the average guy is not gonna have an issue.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy though. Because think about that. Like even nowadays, how easy it is to get a hold of people, cell phones, email, all that, right?
Right.
Yeah, I see this dead deer there. I can't get a hold of this landowner. Maybe I shot it on my property. Bad shot, whatever. It runs a quarter mile, ends up on your property. I shot it over here. I'm over here.
Right.
That shouldn't be illegal. But just imagine being back in the day when there were no cell phones. And it wasn't just 20 acres that this guy had. It was 30,000 acres.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I understand that's his land, but I have no idea where he lives or how to find him. There's no ability to get in touch with this guy.
I think that's definitely state by state, because there are some states that if you don't bring your weapon with, you can legally go on their property.
Oh,
to retrieve your animal.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me, because I mean, even just like going and, I mean, it's polite.
Yeah,
like, hey, there's a thing, and I got to do a thing. Like, can I do a thing on your thing? But
which now again seems easy. You just drive down the road. You know where their driveway is. You go knock on their door, whatever.
But yeah, you're in Wyoming or Montana, and the dude's got 5,000 acres.
Yeah, and there are no roads.
You don't know where the house is.
Exactly.
It might not even be a house. It's just a ranch.
Yeah. And it might be private property, but the dude might not even live in that state.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's
the hunter
crazy.
might not even be from that state.
Right.
Let's say I go out that way. Like I was gonna say, like, get prior permission. I've talked to the neighbors of like the lands that I hunt. Like they know, and I was like, hey, if this happens, can I? They're like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's how I'd respond to it too. But again, these laws are in place because people were doing this shit.
Yeah.
Like they had to come up with all the variations of like, no, this is okay, but this isn't okay. Because if we let you go this far with these rules, that's too much grace room for people to push the limits or whatever. But the reason this is all on my mind so fucking vividly is, dude, I've been watching that 1883. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's badass, dude. It's basically a TV show about the Oregon Trail.
Okay.
Motherfuckers be dying, bro.
It's
brutal.
A bitch.
It's fucking brutal, dude. Rattlesnakes, fucking people drowning trying to cross rivers, fucking the savages of the native plain coming and fucking people up, dude. It's crazy, but it's a prequel to Yellowstone.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched any of that either.
Yeah, Yellowstone takes place in the modern day, but they're still out in fucking Montana, dude. And it is a cool show, man. And it just reminded me of like the way I grew up as a kid and like the stories I would hear. And it's like that is a fucking crazy hard life.
I heard Yellowstone was like Sopranos for rednecks.
It did.
I'm in. I just haven't watched it.
It starts off with a land dispute. Somebody's trying to give a guy to give up 30,000 acres. And he's like, it wouldn't even put a dent in your ranch. That's how much land this guy owns.
Yeah.
And it's a descendant of the family from this 1883 show. They settle in like a mountain valley, and dude just takes it all. and then here we are over 200 years later, and they're just insanely rich, just incredibly powerful. They basically run this whole part of Montana. Fucking awesome, dude. It's a great show. I'm super into it. And now I want more land. But I'm thinking about this, and it's like it's all bought now. All the land is owned by somebody now.
I mean, there's millions and millions of acres of like public land.
Yeah, but that's public. Like you can't go own that. You can't take that. That's what I'm getting at, right? Is like way back in the day it was different because you could just go out and make your own reality. You just had to get out into the wilderness far enough, and you could claim as much land as you could fucking pick it or whatever, whatever the state rules were.
Right.
And then that was your land, and you could do whatever you want on it. You die fucking poor and alone, or you could turn it into an empire. Completely up to you. Nowadays, fuck, man, there's states with laws that prevent you from getting off the grid. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah. Got to be connected.
Because we were talking about this last time you came on. How you kind of dipped out from society and fucking went and did your own thing, and
Escaped.
yeah, man. So a lot of people are wanting to do it more and more.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of friends that have moved, not necessarily by me, but in that general direction.
Yeah, just out of the cities.
Yeah. In the last, I mean, it was happening even before like COVID.
Right.
But the last 2 years, several have moved far away.
Yeah. There's a huge, and it's been happening for a long time, right? Like way before any of it even got popular. You've always had your homesteaders and your preppers and shit like that. I find it fascinating. I've always been not only interested, but fascinated, almost obsessed with the idea of being truly self-reliant. I love it, dude. Fucking, I definitely need to work on my hunting skills, though.
Yeah, it's definitely like a romantic thought, and I like daydream. But actually, it like the simple life, right? David Lee Roth was right. It ain't so fucking simple, dude.
The simple life ain't so simple. No, it's really not, but it is peaceful because it is a simple life. It's not easy, but it's not complicated. It's not this crazy, rambunctious world where you got to like navigate how people think and feel. It's like you just got to survive.
Yep.
And in many ways, as hard as that is to do, it is a simpler life, and it does bring the vast majority of us happiness.
Keeps your brain busy for sure.
Yeah, I think when you get enough comforts out there where you're fed and everything's taken care of, and then you're just straight up bored, that's when the problems kick in.
Yeah, you start looking for things to bitch about.
Yeah, I got to work on my hunting skills because fucking I want to do what you do. Start fucking hunting my own deer, making my own venison. So tell me about this. So the first thing you got to do is you got to get a pig or a ton of fat from somewhere.
Oh, for like sausage?
Whatever. I mean, take me through it. So you kill your deer.
Yeah.
You quarter it up. And then I'm sure you take most of it and grind it down into...
Probably. I like all the rough cuts.
Okay.
So like I like the steaks. I keep a lot of roasts.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the percentage, but normally I only get 25, 30 pounds of ground meat.
Really?
Yeah.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, for sure. But like October, I got just under 100 pounds of meat off of one buck, which is usually a big deer you can get 70 or 80 pounds off of.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of meat. But I also take like all the meat most people don't. And I...
Like what?
In between the ribs, like the real fatty, and deer fat's not good. It's really waxy.
Oh, really?
It's really tough. There's a lot of like silver skin. But I'll take that and kind of cut it into strips and smoke it for the dogs.
Oh.
So just to like use it.
Yeah.
And they go fucking crazy for it.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
It's like crack.
Yeah, I got to get into that shit, dude. I'm a pretty good fisher. I'm a pretty good fisherman. Like, as far as freshwater lakes and rivers and stuff like that goes, I'm pretty good. Fine. I could feed my family on it. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be flourishing by any means because I think it's kind of tough to live on fish.
Probably. You'd have to get some pretty fatty fish.
I was just going to say, yeah, there's just not fat.
No, you'd have to go north.
Even then, there's just not fat on fish.
If you had like lake trout, salmon.
Yeah, but it's, even though it's there, it's just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't survive on it. You need something else. You need fat from some other source in order to make it happen. But yeah, I don't know that I would want to like raise pigs, raise chickens, do all that stuff, but I would want, maybe chickens. Because like there's some good, self-reliable food in chickens.
Eggs are delicious.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just there. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then even just the chickens themselves, you know, because you get one rooster and he keeps making more of those eggs, actual chickens. And then, yeah, and then you just got an endless supply of chickens and eggs.
I've never had chickens. I don't really have property. So,
you know Jamal, though.
Oh, yeah. No, I know plenty of people that have chickens.
They do it right here in the city.
About it. Yeah.
You can have fucking, I think
it's
you
like
can
up
have
to like 5 or something.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
Quarter acre.
I think it's 6, but yeah.
Weird rules.
Yeah, it's fucking, actually, no, I think in the city, I think you can have 2.
Yeah, probably no roosters.
Correct.
In city limits.
Yeah, you can have chickens, but no roosters. Something like that. Yeah, I see it all over the place in Northeast Minneapolis. Motherfuckers have them like
Fucking
built into their
hipsters.
garage and shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, hipsters.
I'm vegetarian, but I eat eggs.
Right?
Those
I get
people.
it.
Yeah.
I get it. You know,
Fine.
it's victimless. There's no guilt. It's guilt free.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's cool, man. And like I said, I'm already brewing my own beer.
Mhm.
I definitely can grow my own weed, even if I'm not doing it now. The only thing is I'll never be able to grow and roll my own cigars. Which is not possible.
Why not?
Climate. I mean, you could, but they wouldn't be any good. Those always have to be imported. We just got to keep good, friendly, allied relationships with like Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic. We already fucked over our Cuban source, and it took 40 years for the cigar industry to bounce back.
There's plenty of fakes.
That's the crazy thing. Like, nowadays, the fakes are actually bullshit, right? Like, they used to be... the whole cigar thing is really interesting because, like, Cuban cigars were the best in the world. And then the embargo came down in the 60s with Kennedy, and basically a bunch of people tried to bail out of Cuba and figure out how to recreate the Cuban cigar in other countries. It took about 20 to 30 years for them to master it and get everything right.
Mm-hmm.
So by the 90s, they started having a new cigar boom, and it was awesome. Like, cigars were great. And now there's what they call Cuban and New World cigars. And the New Worlds are arguably as good, if not better, than Cuban cigars. There are still some super high-end Cuban cigars that are amazing. But now the fakes are... Oh, and that's what I was trying to say. So back in the day, the fakes were regular cigars, right? Good cigars.
Yeah.
And the packaging is what was faked to try to pretend it was from Cuba.
Sure.
Now, there's motherfuckers in Cuba and all around Cuba, and they're faking shitty cigars,
But they're from Cuba.
right? Or
Right.
And sometimes they might be from Cuba, and so
Mhm.
technically it is a Cuban cigar, but it's not actually a good cigar anymore. Now there's still like real Cohibas and shit like that from Cuba that are still very good and highly sought after, but there's a huge argument, a huge debate in the cigar world as to if Cubans are actually better now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's a bunch of dudes on Reddit who will eat me alive for saying this, but there's a bunch of dudes on Reddit who will have my back on this and be like, oh, New Worlds are better, and they have been. And one of the main arguments for it is that the communist government of Cuba is so greedy because tobacco is their main export that they don't allow their shit to age. They're not patient enough with it. They just want to ship it out and make as much money as they can as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good for a quality cigar.
Sure.
The big thing is patience and aging it and all that shit.
Yeah, I don't know fuck about that. So.
It's interesting though, because like when last time you came on the podcast, we were talking about when we get into something, we become obsessed.
Yeah.
We want to know. That's what happened to me with
that's your new
cigars.
thing, right?
Yeah. Like
Right.
I got into cigars in October when I quit smoking cigarettes, and
Mhm.
like I had already been into cigars once when I was like 25, but it was so confusing. It was really overwhelming, and it still is. But now with a little bit more age and a little bit more understanding, I was able to actually figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking complicated as shit, dude. Just like anything else, just like beer, just like whiskey, just like music. It's a whole deal. And every
Right.
single person in that chain is an expert in what they do, from the roller to the guy who decides like how much of each type of tobacco to create different flavor blends.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking... It's
Do you ever
crazy.
watch any of those documentaries of like the guys that are experts at like making sushi?
Mhm.
And it goes through their whole life and how they do that. I watched one of those kind of things on cigars once.
Did you?
I don't remember anything about it though.
Dude, the sushi chef ones are interesting though,
Yeah.
dude, because those guys will train for years.
Right.
Like real sushi chefs.
And they're like 85 and they're finally good.
They're finally a
Like-
master. Yeah. Yeah, and they'll spend just like hours just with the thinnest shavings of some
Mhm.
crazy fucking fish I've never heard of. And like, yeah, they show like the apprentice and then they show the master. And to me, I can't tell the difference.
Mhm.
But they're like, this guy has 7 more years left before he's ready. Like, what's 7 years going to teach him? It looks fine.
Yeah. Give me my roll. I'm just gonna fucking mow it in my face.
So funny you say that too, because like I fucking took this girl out before I met my wife. I took this girl out to sushi one time. I was like, "You want to go have sushi?" And we get there and I order a bunch of rolls. And she's like, I thought you said we were having sushi. I was like, you can order sushi. I'm not having sushi. And the punchline here is that rolls aren't fucking sushi. Like, it's not. That's not actually sushi. Sushi is like the raw meat on top of the rice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rolls, that's the American version.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's all tasty, though.
She didn't want a second date. That's what I'm getting at.
Rather like the happy hour, like buy two, get one.
I don't really like sushi, man. I like some of the rolls. Most of the rolls are like deep fried.
Oh yeah, like imitation crab with avocado.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the hot sauce?
There's this place in Northeast Minneapolis called Momo, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's got steak in it. It's got cooked steak in it. It's fucking amazing. It's not sushi. It's not even close to sushi.
It's like rolled in a tortilla too.
Pretty much.
Like, what the fuck?
Might as well be. Yeah, I fucking dig it. I dig it a lot, dude. But yeah, man, fucking tell me more. What you been up to?
Work mostly.
Yeah,
but got most of like the inside of the house done, so I don't have too many indoor projects left, which is nice.
What were you just doing?
Oh, we gutted the whole house room by room since we bought it.
So basically what I've done.
Yeah, it's a bitch, but
how long did it take you?
I bought it a little over 4 years ago, and basically it was a cabin. And before it was a cabin, it was abandoned for like 12 years.
Really?
Yeah. So I got a deal on it.
Yeah.
To say the least. And then we kind of went room by room, like down to the studs, replace all the electrical, all the plumbing, all new everything. And I mean, there's some like trim and shit to do still, but like mostly the interior is all completely brand new. Small house is like 800 square feet, 1 bedroom. It was 2 bedrooms. I got rid of the one wall and made 1 bedroom.
Oh, gotcha.
The bedroom was like fucking like 7 by 9 or whatever, you know, and the other one had a door going outside.
Sure.
That's not a bedroom.
Yeah.
So I like moved the wall pretty much. We have like the entryway with laundry, and then the bedroom's twice the size.
That's smart. Sounds like a cabin.
Yeah,
7 by 9 bedrooms. Yeah, that's a cabin. That's enough for a guy with a bunk bed.
Yeah, it feels a lot more like a home now.
That's awesome.
Bought it that first year I was there. It was, I mean, the water was orange. Some of the lights worked. Like
that's what it was like living here at first, dude. It's almost exactly what it was like living here. In fact, every once in a while, still, I've got some fucking bogus electric going on somewhere in this house, and I haven't sussed it out yet. Because I'll still get like a light flicker. We still get all kinds of weird shit where it's like it'll fry an entire group of bulbs in a certain like in the kitchen there's like 4 bulbs in the ceiling fan.
Yep.
And something will happen every once in a while because it'll fry all 4 bulbs at once.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I'm not an electrician, but I understand enough to do it. So yeah, room by room, slowly but surely, I'm going through and mapping each thing out to like where it goes to. And I found out certain outlets are like double powered by multiple breakers because they both fed into a single box at one point. Oh my god! But I'm so fucking close to being done with it. We're getting ready to finish up the kitchen. And then it's moving on to the outdoor projects.
Yeah,
gotta put on a fucking deck, dude.
Where we're at.
Yeah, good thing labor or fucking lumber finally came down in cost.
Well, I got the one deck. I want to make the other deck bigger. My property is really weird. We're like right on the road, but we're also right on the lake. It's really long property, but it's skinny, and the house is right. And from the road to the lake is like all downhill. The one side we're gonna fence off for the dogs, kick the dogs outside. The other side's got the big deck and the fire pit.
Nice.
It's yeah. If you ever came over, you'd be, what? I mean, you can get about 2 passes on the lawnmower between my house and the lake.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't do that anymore. Between fence and you do like small I'll be busy.
I think I'm about to be in a similar boat, dude. Because when I build the deck in my backyard, that's gonna take up half of that lot that I bought, and then we're gonna put a pool over on the other corner, so it's gonna take up a quarter. So I'm literally gonna be left with like a quarter of that property, and there's a fire pit and a tree there.
What more do you need?
So, like, I'm thinking, I'm like, man, I bought this riding lawnmower because I have all this lawn to mow. Plus, I do some of the neighbor shit, right? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna actually start to get impractical to have that rider.
Good for beer runs. That's about it.
I'm gonna take a run to this store. I never thought about that. I should.
You see that by me all the time,
dude. That's the one thing I want to do in the country is have like dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, and snowmobiles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in the middle of the winter, it doesn't matter,
right?
Like you can just do it in the trails. Yeah, I'm going over. Fucking, we're gonna all meet up. Blah 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 blah. Blizzard, doesn't matter. Everybody just takes the snowblower or the snowmobiles there. Right. That was my favorite about living in the country.
Yeah, by me, like it's legal to ride ATVs and UTVs on the roads,
on the streets. Yeah,
so there's just side by sides everywhere.
Yeah, you just need a fucking
and golf carts, and
they just need a little license plate on them, right? Just license plate.
Yeah, I
tags.
think they need like headlights and brake lights, that kind of stuff.
Which most of them have nowadays, anyways, regardless of whether street legal or not.
Right. Most of them are probably better on the street than off road. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. And I think it's one of those things where it feels like it's getting more and more important to develop these life skills. Because, like, dude, you look at the shit that's happening in Russia, man. Russia and Ukraine. It's like we might be headed for fucking World War III. Like, and the economy might be truly collapsing from the bottom, you know, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I don't know that much about that yet. The only things I've heard are same sort. And then you hear like what Putin has to.
Yeah,
I haven't heard much in the middle, so I don't really have an opinion on it.
Well, it's interesting because it seems to be pretty bipartisan, right? So the right and the left both seem to be united against Putin, so that's good. We have some unity in America for the first time in a long time. Give it up to Russia for bringing us all together. I think the most terrifying part, though, is we basically have Europe and America versus Russia and China right now, because Russia and China like got each other's backs on this shit, and I think China's going to go try to grab Taiwan soon. And they'll probably do it now while the world's freaking out about Ukraine. China will probably turn around and go grab Taiwan.
Yeah, well, they haven't admitted that Taiwan was a separate country ever.
True.
They always just considered it China. Like, that China island over there.
True story. Same thing with Hong Kong. Before they got Hong Kong back, they never really acknowledged that was a separate country.
Right.
Yeah, and then as soon as coronavirus showed up, they used that as a way to go get Hong Kong. That's why I'm saying I believe China will take the advantage of the world's attention on Russia and Ukraine, and they'll just be like, oh, we're going to grab Taiwan real quick here. Nobody look. Keep your eyes over there. That's what it feels like to me. That's what I'd do. If I were China, that's exactly what I would do. Like, the world's over there looking to the left. Let's go do something on the right side. Yeah, like a magician.
Diversion tactic.
Yeah, fucking, what do they call that? Not diversion tactics. There's another word for it.
Surprise butt sex.
God damn it. It's what illusionists do. Where they get you to look somewhere so they can do their little thing. The fuck am I talking about? What's the word I'm talking about? Yeah.
And something.
God damn it. If there's anybody watching right now, put it in the comments. Tell me what the fuck I'm thinking of, because I can't remember it. It's driving me nuts. What are you up to as far as music, dude?
Fucking shit.
Shit?
Yeah.
What's that? What shit?
Nothing. I kind of have home studio sort of set up again. With all the house crap, I didn't really have like a usable space in the basement. But reorganized the basement, and then one of the rooms I actually like did flooring and walls, and have like a workbench and stuff for all my archery crap, and then built a little desk, so I got like all my studio stuff set up. And guitars and haven't done anything yet.
What do you record on?
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools?
Yeah. It's an old version. I mean, I have an old, it was probably like 2014 when I bought it. iMac that hasn't been on the internet in about 7 years.
Good.
Yeah, no, it actually works. And then like, I don't even remember what version of Pro Tools, but it all still works.
That's sick, dude. Yeah, I gotta get this fucking album done. I'm motivated though. I'm motivated to get it done for the first time in a long time, bro. I'm getting up, working out, fucking getting down here, playing some drums, doing some recording, getting the setup. Fucking exciting, dude.
I was just talking to Lions like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, about finishing all that Damascene stuff. Like the demo stuff has bass on it, but like the final tracks, there's no bass. It's just drums and rhythm guitars.
Talking about Chris Lyons?
Yeah. Got to get him to do the bass, and I can actually do lead guitars and then figure out.
What band was he just in? Is it Den of Thieves?
No, he's always in like 7 different bands, but he's with Fischetti and those guys.
So not Den of Thieves. That's the old ATB boys. Cobra Czar?
Yes.
Is that who it is?
That would be the one. He's got some other stuff too. I just never remember names of things. Let's see.
Yeah, Fischetti and Tim Java's the drummer for that act.
Yep.
Yeah, they're a dope band, dude. Those guys are really good.
Yeah, they're cool.
Somebody was trying to talk shit about their music video. I was like, whatever, dude. Like, kind of like what we were talking about before the podcast.
It's the internet, bro.
Go make a music video then. Since you're such an expert,
right?
Go make a fucking music video then. I'm so sick and tired of hearing people. Like, if you don't like it, cool. You know what I mean? But like, don't talk shit because you don't know how to make a better music video. You've never done it. Whatever. I don't want to hear it. I'm getting so burnt out on fucking shit talkers. Unless it's valid.
Yeah, I mean, shit talking's fun. It's either got to be valid or funny. If it's neither of those two things, it's useless.
It's true. Funny shit talking is definitely my favorite.
My favorite thing.
I love talking some shit.
If I actually use social media, that's all I do.
Right.
Like shit talk my friends.
I should do more on social media rather than just promote the podcast. I'm supposed to be making content, but it's so hard, dude. What the fuck do you do, man?
Yep.
What am I going to do? Make guitar playthrough videos? There's 1,000 guys on YouTube that do that better than I ever could. You know what I mean?
I thought the same thing, doing like guitar cover stuff. But
Oh, shout out to Jamal. Thanks, buddy. That's exactly what I was trying to think of. Misdirection. Just a simple old misdirection. Russia's invading Crimea and Ukraine over here. Let me just annex Taiwan while you're not looking. The old misdirection.
Yeah. Jamal heard politics and his dick started tingling and had to go on YouTube.
Jamal got the Google notification when I said Russia. I said Russia and YouTube was like, ding, Jamal.
He'd probably be the guy that knows a lot about it.
I've been doing a lot of research and I think I know exactly what's going on. But yeah, I'm not trying to sit here and pretend I'm an expert. But I will say that Putin genuinely believes the Ukrainians are his people.
Like, I think part of the Ukrainian people believe they're Russian as well.
Yeah.
So
it's a small segment.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a small group. But Russia started in Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine right now. That's where the Russian Empire started. You know, and there's a lot of Ukrainians with a Russian parent and a Ukrainian parent. Like having a Canadian parent and an American parent.
Yeah.
It's like having a Wisconsin. Actually, it's more like having a Wisconsin parent and a Minnesotan parent. Right. It's like it's not really actually different. We're all right here in the Midwest. Like we're all German descent or whatever the fuck it is that we are in this region, or Norwegian or whatever the fuck. Right or wrong though, and that's why I think it is wrong, because it's like, well, the difference is, dude, is like at the end of the Soviet Union, Ukraine chose to be independent. So even if there's a few people there who feel like they got fucked over, they've had 50, 60, 70 years to come home to Russia. Like, you don't have sovereign claim over this land anymore. That's just my opinion. What do you think, Jamal? I'd be curious to hear what Jamal thinks. Go ahead, type out your novel. I'll read it. I'll read it during the podcast. But yeah, fucking. What else is new, dude?
I don't know. What's it been, like a year?
Yeah.
Since I was here last?
Yeah. I still have your shed that you gave me.
Oh, yeah.
I moved it off the table because we kept having group podcasts. It was always in the way, and I was moving it around. I was like, fucking just move it over here. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I might actually get out to look for some of those this weekend, maybe.
Is that when they start happening? Is about
most of them are probably already dropped. But
when do they usually drop them?
Anytime after rut.
Really?
Could be January. It's usually like as the weather starts to warm up.
Other than like fighting, is it like a sexual thing?
Yep.
So like the females choose males based on how dope their horns look?
I think it's more of,
or how many points they have or whatever the fuck.
No, it's probably more of the fighting, the dominance thing. Like the younger, smaller racked bucks just aren't gonna even bother with the does because they're gonna get their asses kicked.
They're like virgins for half their lives.
Yeah.
God, what if being a human was like that, dude? Or like the only way you
could
get laid is to go beat someone's ass.
You ever been to a bar in your 20s?
Yeah, dude. I got in a lot of fights. I just wasn't useless for half my life. I won half those fights. Why do you think half my teeth are fake, dude? But imagine that. Imagine like the only way to have sex is through violence.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a crazy fucking world we would live in, dude. Because we do compete like animals, right?
Oh, for sure.
Some guys dress a little nicer. That's like animals who have a beautiful coat. Some guys wear cologne and shit. That's like animals that try to have an attractive scent. See where I'm going with this, right? Birds do like a little dance. Humans dance. There's certain birds that do that. Like, look at my mating dance.
Right.
Humans do that. Fucking, there's fish and different birds that who can build the most beautiful nest. You know, that's who has the nicest house.
Right.
You know, it's all the same exact mating rituals, but humans are the only ones that do all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just have one way of getting laid.
Right.
It's anything we can do.
Yeah, and it's every day. It's not just like a couple weeks a year.
Right.
Like
yeah, and if you falter, your bitch is gone.
That's why you got to fight for it in the animal kingdom. Because it's not just a Tuesday night at the bar.
Right.
It's like, I got November 1st until the 14th.
I'm going to get some pussy in these 2 weeks. Yeah, fuck, man, you're right, dude. Because then it's like I don't care who I have to fight to get it.
Yep.
I'm fucking somebody up because I'm fucking
squirrels. Squirrels rut one day a year.
No way.
And it's not like on the same day, but females, and it's only for like 4 or 5 hours.
So randomly.
Yeah, randomly they go into heat, I guess.
Yeah.
Estrus, and all the males know it around them. So if you ever see like 35 fucking squirrels all fighting, it's because that one female is in estrus right now. So they'll rut and beat the fuck out of each other for like 4 hours a year.
Dude, that's insane, dude. The city squirrels are already insane. Do you know about city squirrels?
Oh, for sure.
Eating the garbage and shit?
Yep.
For listeners that don't know what I'm talking
They're
about.
the Midwest rats.
Dude, it's fucking wild, dude. It is crazy. So these squirrels will dig into garbages and eat human food. And after a few years, it drives them crazy. Like, it makes them hyper aggressive. And they'll fucking, like, they do this, like, it's like a growl, but it's like kind of high pitched, just like a, and they puff out their cheeks. And I've had them try to intimidate me away from garbages when I'm like taking the garbage out or going out to my vehicle and they're like trying to eat something out of that garbage. They'll fucking sit there and try to like posture and get you to get away from their food supply, dude. And they're fucking nuts, man. And I've watched them fight over pizza boxes, like empty pizza boxes. I've watched like 6-7 squirrels fight over the pizza box. eat out the center where the pizza was sitting and all the grease got absorbed.
Right.
There's just the whole bottom of a pizza box missing in a circle. It's
like, all bloated, full of cardboard.
It's like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, city squirrels on human food, it's a different deal. Yeah. It's not like being in the suburbs where you see them eating nuts and shit. Nah, man, they ain't interested in none of that.
Yeah, they're pretty chill by it. Try not to get eaten by our dogs.
Dude, they hide food in our house.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my wife, like you, I'm still remodeling the whole house, and there's one of the windows upstairs. Well, it's actually technically two different windows, but one of the windows that we put the air conditioner in doesn't have a screen. And I was like, well, if we're going to put an AC in here, I'm just not going to put a screen in there. You know, it's got a storm window that's good enough. Well, any time of the year, summer, winter, doesn't matter. There'll be like a bagel, like a whole half of a bagel in the windowsill. Like randomly. Just like, here, this is my stash spot where nobody else can get my fucking food. Right. Chicken bones, half-eaten pieces of pizza, fucking, and they're randomly in our yard as well. And for the longest time, I thought people were just like walking by, eating food and throwing it in our yard. Yeah. No, dude, it's the fucking squirrels dropping it from the fucking treetops, dude. It's fucking gross, dude. My dogs are running out there, fucking eating half-eaten food. Oh, yeah, it's so gross, dude. I'm trying to pull a half-eaten pizza, someone else's pizza out of your dog's mouth. Dog's ready to take your fucking finger. You take his pizza away, buddy.
Yeah, we don't have problems with squirrels. We get mice in the fall. They store a lot of wood in the basement. Fireplace upstairs.
So what do? Do they build nests in the wood?
I've never found one, but I don't know if they even really live in the house, but our cats find them, you know, and then we'll get like 4 or 5 a year. Something like that.
You got rats out there?
No.
Rats are pretty rare in the country.
Yeah,
right?
I've never seen.
Well, they're not super rare in the country because they have a big rat problem in the country in England. Big time. Like, dudes will take out, like, fucking beagles and shit. You know, like, little tiny hunting dogs. Right. And they'll fucking just stick a shovel in the ground and rip up the ground, and there's 30 fucking rats. And these dogs dive in, grab them by the neck, break their neck, and just throw them and go for the next one. Break their neck, throw them, go for the next one. So, like, one dog will take out, like, a dozen rats, and they just walk throughout the field. It's the only way they can even move. And they're just under the ground, just all over each other. It's disgusting.
Gross.
Yeah, it's one of the grossest things I've ever seen. But I've never heard of that in America. Our rats are all in the city.
Yeah.
At least the ones I know of.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Dude, we had one in the house. I was redoing the toilet on second floor. And it's super old plumbing, super old house. So the fucking... what do you call it? The toilet flange?
Yeah.
Got broken when I was trying to clean it off and get it ready for the new toilet. And so I had to cover it up. Well, first I plugged it, right? And then what I covered it up with wasn't heavy enough. So all of a sudden, I'm hanging out in the living room one day, and I see something quite large. Looks like one of my dogs.
Right.
Out of the corner of my eye. I see it out of the corner of my eye. I look, and at the same time, 3 of my 5 dogs see it as well. And they all fucking... Actually, I think we had 7 still at the time, because we had Peanut's puppies. Dude, and they coordinated, like, it was pretty fucking impressive, dude. Because basically, they surrounded this fucking thing. They hunted it through my house, cornered it, surrounded it, and then each took turns swiping at it until they fucking picked it off to the point where I could come in and grab it without me being bit. Dude, it was and it was huge, dude. From head to tail, it was probably 2 feet long. Like, they're fucking big, dude.
Right.
The body of it was probably a foot long.
Yuck.
And probably about that fat in its belly. Yeah, it's not a mouse, dude. And the fucking teeth. The teeth were incredibly long and big.
Grow and grow and grow. I don't think they stop growing.
I don't know.
Pretty sure.
I don't know. All I know is that we got lucky that I caught it so quickly, because I didn't realize how he had gotten in the house. Called pest control. They kind of walked me through what to look for.
Sure.
And then I'm like, oh my God, I bet you it's the toilet. Well, here's apparently what the deal is. That's like a scout. This is how sophisticated rats are.
Yep.
He was a scout. So they send him up. He searches the whole house and then goes back and tells them whether it's safe or not. And they go, within 6 hours, you're going to have dozens, and I mean dozens of rats. So you got to get that thing plugged right away. It was pretty intense, dude. It was pretty freaky.
Mm.
I was so worried about my dog because one of my dogs got bit by the rat.
Mm.
You can get some nasty ass diseases from rats, but
your dog's part dachshund, right?
Yeah, Chihuahua and dachshund.
I think dachshunds were bred to hunt badgers.
Yeah, the full size dachshund
does not surprise me that they want to go fuck up some rats.
Yeah, dude. Same thing with the Chihuahua. The Chihuahua was both the Chihuahua and most small dogs are bred to hunt rats and vermin and rodents and things like that. Chihuahuas were meant to hunt rats and mice and shit like that in Mexico. The full-size wiener dog was bred to hunt badgers in Wisconsin. That's why they have such short legs, so they can go down into the tunnels.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they also can survive off incredibly small amounts of oxygen for the same exact reason, because they go into these tiny, tight spaces and fight. They don't need, like a German Shepherd would literally suffocate down there if it could fit. But you said, because wiener dogs are not as small as people think. Most people think wiener dog, they think a miniature wiener dog.
Yeah.
Yep. Full-size wiener dogs are actually pretty fucking big, and they're horribly ferocious, like violently mean. And if you think about it, it makes sense because they got to go hunt badgers and shit, right? So you need a fucking violent dog, dude. Yeah, and mine are just mix. They're a Chihuahua wiener dog mix. So yeah, they're because Chihuahuas are pretty known for being assholes too.
Oh yeah, I've been bit a few times by Chihuahuas.
Like fuckers,
the really little ones,
like the teacups.
Yeah,
those are the meanest ones.
Yeah.
They think they're
sharp little bullshit teeth, too.
Dude, and they think they're Rottweilers.
Yeah.
Like, you ever see a teacup go after a big dog? It's hilarious because most big dogs are afraid of teacup Chihuahuas. Like, I've never seen anything like it in my life, dude. I've seen pit bulls, Rottweilers, all of them freak out and run away from tiny little teacups.
Yeah. I had a Pomeranian for a while, and that thing would start shit. Everything.
They're like women. Don't you ever notice it's the tiny, cute little chicks?
Well, you can't hit them. So they just get in your face and talk shit.
Fuck you, motherfucker!
Dude, it is the most frustrating thing.
They're tiny, they're cute, and they can't be hit. That's a bad combination for anyone. Those bitches are wild, man. They'll say and do some crazy shit. My boyfriend will kick your ass.
Yeah, I've been that boyfriend before, and no, I won't.
That's what I said. Don't be over there starting fights and expecting me to come fix that shit for you. I ain't even that big.
I've been on both ends of that. It's not fucking fun.
The worst is when she says that and her boyfriend is willing to fight you and he's big. And then you're like, fuck.
Nope. Heck, please.
I remember when I was in my early 20s, there was this smoking hot little cutie. Never got her name, but I thought she was flirting with me, right? Because of the way she was being kind of a bitch to me. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so I'm like, man, she's fucking hot. I'm super into it, right? So I kept fucking with her thinking like we're flirting, like this is going back and forth. And then she pulled that shit. She's like, my boyfriend will kick your fucking ass. I was like, right, your boyfriend, thinking she's just trying to fuck with me. All of a sudden, dude shows up. And I'm like, where the fuck has this guy been the whole time? Like, is he watching this from across the bar waiting for a cue?
Right.
I think he just happened to show up. But yeah, it's fucking terrifying. He's a big dude. 6'3", 6'4". Looked like you played linebacker in the NFL. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm going to get raped. So what else is on your mind, buddy?
Oh.
You're not very talkative today. Do you need some whiskey?
Yeah, maybe.
Got a little Jack up there, a little Evans up there. Let's do some Evan Williams.
Could have a drink. I'm just tired. I'm an old man. I feel like an old man half the time. What happens when you're up at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock every day?
Yeah, you're done working at what, like 2?
Yeah, like at the latest.
So that means you're getting to work at what, 5, 6 a.m.?
Yeah, anywhere from 4:30, 5:30 I usually start. Just depends. If the dog wakes me up at 3 o'clock to take a shit, then I'll go in early.
There you go, buddy.
It's hard to sleep after that.
I'm not taking shots. We don't have that much. I'm just going to sip this anyways. I got shit to do later. Yeah, after you get out of here, I might even try to play some drums. See?
Be loud for a while.
Well, my routine has been to do it all during the day. I try to treat it like a day job, right? So I try to do this like wake up, work out, eat breakfast, come down here, play for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So by 1, 2, 3 o'clock, I'm kind of done with my day.
Yep.
And I think, dude, honestly, man, I think it's probably the only way I'm ever going to get anything done in my life ever again is by treating it like that and just coming in and chunking it out every day. Yeah, and just a little bit every day.
Yep.
Because what I don't have is a band. So it's not this religious Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. thing.
Yep.
And that's what I used to need to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come in, we'd fucking play the set, even if our set was only 3 songs deep. Because that's all, we just started the band.
Sure.
Cool. Play those 3 songs, work on one of the new ones, play those 3 songs again, work on one of the new ones, play those 3 songs again. At the end of the night, try to play all 4.
Forever and ever for years and years. Yeah.
Yep. And here's the crazy thing. When you've been doing it as long as you and I have, we could bang that out. I'm telling you, from day one, I've done this multiple times now, so the concept has been proven, right? It's not even a theory anymore. I know I can do this with anybody who's a competent player. You don't even need to be a good musician. You don't even need to be a good songwriter. You just got to be able to play your instrument. Show up 3 times a week for 3 hours a day. And at the end of that, 3 months later, we will have a full set list, like a full 40 minutes worth of music, and we're going to be a really, really fucking good band, like as far as performing on stage and shit goes.
If you actually stick to like practicing the right way. Like how many practices just turned into dudes smoking pot and drinking beer and talking shit.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That was always fun too. But
I know what you mean.
If you actually want to like fucking do a thing.
Yeah.
You gotta do the thing.
I agree with that 100%. Because I hear about it, same thing, like let's just take the band out of it for a second, right? I hear about this a lot. Guys like, oh, I practice an hour or 2 every day. And I'm like, well, you still fucking suck.
Right. So how are you practicing?
Exactly. It's like, what are you practicing?
Practicing with a purpose.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I noodle around when I play too.
What do
just
you
like write stuff or whatever, but practice with a purpose is.
What's your purposeful example? Like, what does that mean to you, and how do you practice with a purpose?
Probably don't have a great example in.
Well, just make one up.
The recent past.
just make up a hypothetical example.
When I was playing a lot, it would probably be pretty boring, where it would just be like up and down scales, kind of for warm up. One of my favorite things to do is if I was trying to learn like a new technique, like a new trick, a new something, you can go online and find a million videos of guys showing you how to sweep pick, let's say. And they'll show you exercises to get really good at sweep picking. So then pretty soon you're doing the same thing that guy does and you can do it really well. I don't think that's really practice. So I would kind of get the idea of what they were doing and then write my own whatever it is with that.
That's almost exactly what I do. Keep going.
So with a lot of like solos and leads and stuff that I wrote for the bands, I could barely play that stuff when I wrote it because I was always trying to figure out how to do this new thing better. Hopefully by the time I recorded it, I could actually play it right. But
right.
I was always like trying to always, if you just sit and play what you're good at playing, you're never going to get better.
Right.
I think that's what most people do. Like, I probably did that for the first 10 years I played.
Yeah.
I'm really good at playing Master of Puppets. So, just all day long.
Yep.
Because it sounds awesome.
Yeah, or just playing covers. That's another thing. Like a lot of guys, I practice 2 hours a day. I'm like, okay, what are you doing while you practice? Well, I play a lot of covers. I'm like, okay, cool. Or they do just the drilling. So it's like I practice my arpeggios for an hour a day.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, okay, but how does...
You got chops, but where's...
Right.
Play something I want to learn how to play.
Right, and if you're like... So, for example, dude's doing arpeggios, right? But they're sloppy as fuck. You're like, dude, you need to practice your arpeggios. Fuck you, I practice an hour a day, every day on my arpeggios. Okay. So all you're doing is taking an hour a day and reinforcing your bad habits.
Right. So,
that's what I notice is like a lot of guys, they don't know what we're talking about. practicing with a purpose because they don't know how to self-evaluate and self-criticize.
Mhm.
So they don't know how to practice for an hour, record it, listen to it, and go, oh, wow, I'm really sloppy, especially on that G string on my middle finger as I'm trying to fucking pivot up to this other note right here. I got to work on just that. So breaking your fucking 6-string arpeggio down into the middle 3 strings because you realize that's where you're having some problems. And then you isolate, oh, it's my middle finger that I'm missing. I'm not crisp. I'm hitting in the middle of the fret instead of just behind the fret like I do on everything else I play.
Mhm.
And then breaking that down and practicing just from your ring, middle to your tip, ring, middle, pointer, ring, middle, till you get that muscle memory. But I swear to God, dude, guys don't do this. They can't break down what they're sucking at and isolate it and improve that one thing. Then zoom back out and realize that the whole sweep sounds much smoother now. Or same thing, I'll just stick on the same arpeggiated sweeps. They're sloppy. Well, because nobody ever told this guy or he never looked into it or never realized if I practice my sweeps in clean tone, very slowly, they will make them sound better and smoother and cleaner when I'm playing them fast at speed with distortion.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Weird, dude.
Yep.
It's weird.
It's there's so many parallels with archery with that, which we can get into. But
yeah, let's do it.
I was also, for like the vast majority of any bands I played with, I was playing with guys that were better than me too. So it was obvious when I was fucking up or not good enough at something. Or I think a lot of people learn differently than we probably did back in the day too. Not even just with YouTube, but I don't know how long you've played guitar, but when I started, the only stuff you could really, I mean, there was sort of tabs, like you could go on fucking dial-up internet for 20 minutes just to download like the intro to a Metallica song.
I used to go to Metallica.com to get my fucking tabs. Way back in the day, they used to
Harmony
be right
Central.
on their own. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I always went. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Pantera. It was like riffy stuff. I didn't even write a solo, I think, until I started A Moment Without, which is like 2008. I had been playing guitar since, 95? It's like I never wrote leads or
That's super interesting
anything.
because no one knew you as a lead guitar player in aEstyria.
No.
Cool. Well, first of all, that wasn't. I don't think that band even had a lead guitar player.
There wasn't.
It was a new
really
metal band,
leads
right?
in there. Sort of, I guess.
I mean, I think it was. I mean,
Yeah.
we were both kind of in that mid 2000s new metal era, but then around 06 to 2010, we both shifted gears and went towards the metalcore thing. You started A Moment Without. I eventually ended up in Dying Euphoria.
Right. Yeah, that seemed to be kind of where the scene went. I don't know. I feel like Dying Euphoria was one of the first like local more metalcore. Depends what you consider metalcore, because there was like
No, it was.
Yeah, there was stuff like early 2000s that was sort of metalcore. But
they
would call it deathcore now.
Yeah, because Solace and Ashes, we were sort of in that metalcore / Midwest hardcore movement.
Right.
Even towards the end of 7 Months of Nothing, we started dabbling in metalcore stuff because Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall were coming out.
But like With Dead Hands Rising was around, I was still in high school, so like 2000, 2001.
And you're right, technically that would have been metalcore when it first started.
But metalcore wasn't like this big thing,
right?
Like it was after Killswitch and all that remained.
Yeah, because basically Killswitch kind of put like a formula to it. It was metal guitars with hardcore breakdowns.
Yeah, exactly. No solos. Instead of doing the solos,
no, they had solos.
Sort of.
Dude, go listen to fucking Forging a Future Self, or not Forging a Future Self. Go listen to Killswitch's first record. It has solos all over it.
I mean, there's leads, but their formula was like, where the solo goes, we're gonna do a breakdown instead.
Gotcha.
That's what I was getting at.
Gotcha.
Which is like August Burns Red does that too. There's sort of guitar solos.
I see what you're saying. Now, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Pantera did both. So they had breakdowns and solos.
Yeah, I almost feel like Pantera invented the breakdown between them and Metallica. Because you got to think of like one, that's a breakdown. For all intents and purposes, nowadays definitions, that's a breakdown.
Sure.
Back then it wasn't a breakdown, it was just a riff. But
Right.
now that would be considered a breakdown.
Now there's bands that just have like breakdown after breakdown and they call it a song. It's really weird.
Well, and it's interesting too because, like I said, with the Metallica one riff, and then if you think of Pantera Walk, dun, 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 like technically, with the way that riff is constructed, it's also now a breakdown. Like,
right.
But they started their song with that. They built a whole song around that riff. Nowadays, that riff would just be the breakdown in the second,
an intro,
third.
or yeah,
it's funny. That's a good point, dude. So you learned how to play lead guitar to be a lead guitar player in real time. It wasn't like you practiced being a lead guitar player and then eventually got a job like most guys do, right? Most guys like set out as a guitar player at 12, 14 years old. They eventually become a lead guitar player because they've been practicing it. They audition, right? Or they start a band and now they're finally the lead guitar player. Your deal was you wanted to be a lead guitar player. You started a band and learned how to play lead guitar in real time almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's almost how I did it too, because I couldn't find a lead guitar player. And I was like, well, I want a solo here. I guess I'll just do it.
I just never put that much effort into it. And I was never in a band that, like aEstyria, guitar solos were not going to be a thing with it, like that style of music.
Right. That makes
it's just
sense.
not like, but and it's not that I wanted to write guitar solos, so that's why I started A Moment Without. But I don't know, I think what I was getting to earlier was I think kids learn differently now, because when we were growing up and learning how to play guitar, it was riffs. It was, you learn rhythm guitar, you learn your bar chords, maybe some scales, but mostly like you're riffing.
Yep.
And you get really good, you get really tight at rhythm guitar. And then if you progress into leads and solos, you have like that foundation. I think a lot of kids right now are hopping straight into wanting to shred, which is like, I know personally a lot of guys that school my ass on guitar solos and lead playing in general, but they can't write a fucking riff that gets stuck in your head.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it's interesting too, because if you I've been listening to a lot of classic rock, and the guitars are very crucial to that music.
Yeah.
But they're not writing riffs, right? Like there might be a catchy guitar part, but it's not about the riff back then. It was about writing great songs.
Yep.
And then something happened between Jimi Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, and 80s metal, where it became more not just about the song, but it became about the riff.
Yeah.
Like I gotta write a riff, like a badass riff. Because that's what I'm getting at. Between Jimmy, Eddie, and all of 80s metal, an entire 2, 3, 4 generations of kids got inspired to pick up guitar because of the riff. Like I want to learn how to play that guitar riff because it just sounds so cool. Whether it's Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses or it's One by Metallica, there was a guitar riff. It wasn't a band, it wasn't a song, it was a specific riff.
Right.
And now it's even gone past that into, well, I want to be doing this gent thing. So you're either fucking trying to create this mathy, weird progressive shit, or these guys are just, like you said, fucking shredding all over the place. But none of it is actually creating catchy, iconic pop music.
Right. Maybe we're just old. I don't know.
I don't think so, dude. I think these things go in cycles. I truly believe this. I truly believe it's cyclical. So I do think there's a reason Greta Van Fleet became popular, even though they're recycling an old sound.
No, that happens for sure. Even the metalcore stuff, there's so many throwbacks to 80s hair metal in the guitar playing.
Yep.
In the metalcore, for sure. And then, even more of that indie rock, which sounds like it's from the 60s and 70s. That's been popular the last 10 years or so. I've listened to a few like more southern rock bluesy bands, and all that stuff sounds like it's from the 70s, but they're brand new bands. Like they even record it vintagely, like it sounds old too, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
there's a new trend going too. I've been watching it on TikTok. There's a new group of drummers, and I'm thinking about jumping on board, where they play acoustic drums like this. Then they basically play hip-hop beats, record them into Logic or whatever, DAW, but then they play them out into a tape machine and then send it back into their DAW. So they get like a real old school organic tape feel. And then they chop those up and sell them as hip hop beats and loops and samples and the whole deal. And it's a huge industry called boom bap.
Yeah, I've heard of guys running, like, you'll have your preamp, your kit, your mics, everything go into a preamp, and they'll kind of run it through a tape machine into Pro Tools or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the only reason
to, like,
you would
get that analog vibe.
And the only reason you would do it this way is so you have basically, it's like DIing. So you get the direct digital unadulterated copy and then run it through a tape, because then you have both. You have both the original and the tape sound. You go straight through the tape, you're just kind of stuck with that sound. There's very little editing you can do after that.
Right.
Nowadays, back in the day, different story. But
I've heard all
skill.
the stories about guys like trying to edit drums on tape and literally having to like cut and slice and like retape the tape.
Yeah.
Like,
it sounds super intimidating,
no
but when you watch the pros do it, they do it as fast and as seamless as we do it in a computer. Like the dude literally is like listening to the tape and he goes, there's the spot, pause. And then he physically rewinds the tape over the playhead, and he in slow motion, he hears the and he goes, there's the snare. I want to cut right here. And then he's got a little thing. He goes, pause, and he brings up a thing. It marks the tape for him. And then he goes, and then we're going to plays it. Okay. And we're going to punch back in here. And then he cuts that, and he cuts them up, tapes them together, plays it back. And it's as smooth as if you and I just did it on a digital DAW. And it took him 10 seconds to do, because he's just that good at it.
Right.
Sounds painstaking, but when that was your deal, that was your job.
I don't know if it's as easy as some of this stuff, because like Beat Detective's been around for a while, but where like it literally looks at your wave files, finds your transient, and marks every single transient, snap it to a grid. So every single hit is absolutely perfect. I think the first time I for sure heard that was Avenged Sevenfold City of Evil, where it was like, how are the drums so perfect?
Yeah.
They're real drums, but they are like grid mapped absolutely perfect.
Almost like they're programmed.
Yeah.
And you can hear it.
Yeah. You can hear it in that album. I love that album. A lot of people hate that band. I love their early stuff for sure.
Yeah, up to City of Evil is when I was still a fan.
Okay. I even like probably the two after that.
There's a couple tunes on there I liked. But yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. The reason I don't like it, the way I used to describe it back in the day, was straight-legged. It's too straight-legged for me. There's no swing in it. There's no groove. It's too white boy for me, right?
It's very produced.
Yeah, it's very metronome-y.
Yep.
Because it's exactly what you said. It's quantized. They they beat map everything to exactly perfect, and it's just so machined.
The first time I heard like very obviously, like, people always talked about maybe Vinnie Paul like sound replacing kick drums and stuff. I remember rumors about that, but the first time I definitely noticed it was the first As I Lay Dying. It was like typewriter kick drums, just like that sounds like shit. Nothing about it sounds real. The first time I ever noticed it, and that was like the beginning of metalcore, because I don't think there's really any of that in nu metal. If you go back and listen to like the old nu metal records from the late 90s, it's all real instruments, like real drumming. Like
lot of swing, lot of groove.
Yeah.
So they were doing things to a click, but they weren't beat mapping.
Like old Seven Dust records.
Yeah. They might have done some copying, pasting here and there, but you're right. I don't think they quantize shit, because there is so much groove in that music. Now you can quantize to a percentage. So like I can play something with a lot of groove, and then you can quantize and make it sound as tight as Avenged Sevenfold, and then you can gradient that back off to the original sloppiness or swing.
They're even, I won't mention names because
do it
local.
Do it.
But guys that would program drums or use Beat Detective, everything would be perfect, and then they would actually go through and like move snare drums early, so it's just out of the pocket, and it just adds groove to it
a little bit.
It's like, you just recorded that,
right? Yeah.
It's weird, but
no, I'll name a name.
You make it perfect, and then you change it to add
name a
like
name.
a fake human.
I'll name
element.
a name. He's a good buddy of mine, John Gensmer. I'm going to give him some shit about that.
Okay,
he's so perfect.
That's not where I was going with it.
He's so perfect that he's actually talked about that. He goes, it took a really long time to edit these and just bring the fucking snare just ahead of the beat or just behind the beat to kind of give it that more smooth groove. And I'm like, you should just play it that way, dude. Like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, because it's not real.
Right.
Because now if I want to hire you to come play that live, it's not going to sound like that live. That's the whole point we're trying to make here, is like, we want to create a sound and be able to capture that sound on record, not the other way around. I don't want to create a sound on record and then figure out how to produce it live. I don't like that. I think that's what too many young kids are doing now. It
probably depends on the style of music.
Maybe. Like you said, if you're trying to sound like an After the Burial, then you got to do it that way, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a manufactured tone.
Right.
It's a manufactured sound.
There's an instrumental band called Polyphia. When I found out about them, they were like teenagers. They're like kids.
They're huge now.
Yeah, they had some demos, and then I forget the name of the first really good production. I don't know if it really sounded good because the drums are obviously fake, and it's, axe effects and guitars are crazy quantized, and they don't really sound like they more sound synthy than they do guitars. But it sounds good. And then I went and seen them live. I think it was their very first tour. So, I mean, they're kids. I can't imagine what my band sounded like when I was 16.
Right.
Jesus Christ. But like, the drummer wasn't even playing the things you were hearing.
Crazy.
So there's like all these, because one of the cool things about the drums on that album was like all the bell work, a lot of cool shit going on up top. Didn't do any of it live, but you could hear it. So it's like on a track.
Yeah.
And then the guitars didn't sound good, but then I seen them a while later and they sounded a lot like that record live. So they kind of did it the way you were saying.
They figured it out.
They figured out how to track it and record it, and they found their sound in studio and then figured out how to replicate that live.
Seven Dust did that too. That entire first Seven Dust record was written in the studio as they recorded it. They didn't go in with finished songs at all. And I'm not saying it can't be done that way, but that's definitely, I don't think that's the best way to do things. Unless you're going for a manufactured sound. That can't happen organically in a room with 4 or 5 dudes. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
You'd have to have like a DJ or a sampler or somebody else there playing those auxiliary things and building those things with you in the room. And it's just, I think you're right. If it's a certain style of music, it's not going to happen that way. But if you're trying to manufacture groove by editing drums to be sloppy, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I don't think that's good.
And there's all kinds. I mean, you can, I guess if you have an ear for it, you can hear fake guitar solos to where they punched it like almost note by note and then like puzzle pieced it together in Pro Tools. You can just hear it. None of it. Rings of Saturn was the big one that got a whole bunch of shit for it because it was crazy fast and like super intricate stuff, and then everybody is showing like live videos of this guy playing. Like, he's not the one that recorded that.
Right.
Which is fine. It's a different art form, really, if you look at studio. But if you're going to put this out here, like, we are this band, this is what we can do. But you can't.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be disrespectful or condescending, but I feel like those guys aren't professional musicians. I feel like they're songwriters who are making money. Because being a professional musician, I feel like you should be able to rip that solo in the studio. And we were talking about this earlier, right? So it's like, because it's almost the exact same thing word for word. Like, I will write these solos and learn techniques as I'm writing the solo because I hear a part in my head and I don't know how to execute it. So I go figure something out, articulate that part, record, and hopefully by the time I record it, it doesn't sound like dog shit anymore, right?
Right.
But then there's a whole other level that I have to approach, which is learning how to play that live standing up. Like literally standing up, because when I'm sitting down, my guitar's way up here. I'm comfortable. I'm able to do now when I'm standing up.
Sweaty hands, and lights in your eyes, and used to be smoke.
Totally different animal.
Yeah.
However, the difference is I've never once claimed to be a professional lead guitarist.
Sure.
See what I'm getting at? Like,
yeah,
it's just not how it works.
But then there's the other guys that they'll have. I listen to a lot of instrumental stuff, a lot of blues, and those guys will like have songs written, and it'll be your classic drums, bass, rhythm guitars, maybe some keyboards, other instruments, and they'll go into studio to record all the leads and melodies and solos and just improv.
Yep.
Like they might take 20 takes of the song and then pick what they like. Maybe they go back and retrack some of it, whatever. But then you see them live and it's 100% different from even the album. And that's some of my favorite stuff.
Yep. No, I agree. And honestly, a lot of the greats did that. Like from Eddie Van Halen down to Kirk Hammett from Metallica and everybody in between.
David Gilmour.
If you listen to like Kill 'Em All, you hear Kirk playing one solo, and then you literally hear the second track come in, and he like doubles up on this one part.
Yeah.
And then quickly, if you listen really carefully, you hear the first part dive down, and they mix up the second half, and it's 2 different takes they patched together. It wasn't even a punch in, punch out deal. Right. It was just like record the first half, then record the second half, and he probably had 8 different versions of each. Right. And then they just picked their combinations of the 2 or 3. And you hear about Kirk Hammett going in and improv all kinds of shit that they eventually cut together to create the soul. And then he has to go back in and learn the new version of it. Like, because I didn't play it that way.
Right.
I don't know how.
Or you don't, and you just improv live too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't think Metallica could get away with that because iconic guitar solos. Like,
right.
If that melody is not in that solo, people aren't going to be happy.
Right.
But a lot of the instrumental stuff I listen to, like, totally winged solos. They've never played it the same way twice. Jimi Hendrix, I don't think he ever played anything the same way twice live.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Even his iconic solos, like the important parts were there.
Even like the Eruption intro, he would play differently live.
I was just going to say, between that and like the Panama solo, I've heard 6 different versions of that just on YouTube alone. Right. When I went and seen them live, it was a different version of it. There's a couple parts in there that are the same.
The sticky parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. The sticky parts. Yeah. Yep.
Everything else is more fluid.
Yeah. 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 And that's a pro. That's a pro. Because if he wanted to, he could play it exactly like it is on record. He fucking just doesn't need to.
I've never been able to improv. The only close to that would be like going on YouTube and being like, metalcore in the key of C minor, and then there's like riffs and you can lead over them or whatever just to work on stuff. But any of my improv, it goes so in the box.
Yeah, all my solos are written through improv, but they're done in takes. It's exactly what we were talking about earlier. So I'll improv, and then like sometimes I hate everything, but there's this weird part in the middle I really like. And then I'm like, okay, let's retake it. And I'll start it from the top and try to keep that part. And write some. And then the whole thing gets pieced together through each take. And then eventually I'm like, I think I got my whole solo written. Let's see if we can actually record this from front to back. But my solos are still slow. I'm not a shredder. Like I've never been that guy. And I'm sure it's just a lack of dedication and focus, but...
Or you just don't want it.
I wouldn't mind it, but I just could never seem to play that fast, that clean. I don't know what it is. I have no idea.
Time. Time and energy, mostly.
I don't know. I mean, I know for a fact that I'm a better rhythm guitar player than anything else, without a shadow of a doubt.
I would say that too, for sure.
I would even say I'm a better rhythm guitar player than I am a drummer. And I don't think anybody would argue with me on that right now. But when I was in my prime, I think a lot of people would have argued with me, and a lot of people did. There's a lot of people that said I was a better drummer than I was a guitar player. But definitely wouldn't make that argument right now. Even with my chops finally coming back, and nobody would ever argue that I'm a better drummer. Nah. Yeah, because I don't even have the same kind of creativity I did on drums. I used to be so creative in how I approach drum beats, and now I'm just playing like dumbed down bullshit. Which I guess
depends who you're playing with too.
You think?
I think so. I mean, if you change anything, you change everything. If I was ever like in a slump, like writing or whatever, if you just play on a different guitar or play through a different amp, you play differently. And you're going to think of different things to play.
That's true. That's a great point. I definitely have noticed that in the past.
Like if you were to
writing on that one and I'm stuck, pick up that guitar, all of a sudden, I'm writing a new song.
I wrote a lot of stuff on acoustic, and it would make no sense to do that because it was more metal stuff. But you just find weird things. I even wrote guitar melodies on piano. Like just farting around on piano, like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then figure out how to play it on guitar and have it make sense in a song.
That's not surprising to me at all because I do that as well. In fact, every good song, every catchy song, anything worth whatever I've ever written has been on acoustic first. Because my theory is if I can get it to sound great on acoustic, it's only going to sound better with distortion. I might have to change how I express a couple of the chords or some of the phrasing along the way, but the riff is still the riff. Mm-hmm. If it's dope on acoustic, then it's going to be even more dope on electric. And that's always been true. Maybe that's why I can't write anything good anymore. Because I'm starting on electric.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, changing anything will rewire your brain. At least for a little bit.
It's hanging right there. I should bust it out. I just got to go buy a new pack of strings.
Even changing tunings.
Yeah.
Will change the way you play. Or string gauges. Or play with a different pick. Guitar's weird like that. It's so expressive.
I don't think I can write good music in standard tuning anymore, though. Like, doesn't matter what key I'm in. I think I need to be in drop. It's just so ingrained into how I write. And I use all 6 strings when I write.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys who's like mostly power chords.
I love giant chords.
Yeah. Like, that's my whole deal.
Contorting your hands to get like the weirdest phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, whatever you got to do to get the sound.
Yep.
And for me, I was trying to fill up as much space as I could as a single guitar player. And this is probably not good in the long run, right? But I was starting this idea from scratch, from nothing. Mm-hmm. And originally, there wasn't even going to be a lead guitar player. So I was like, I want to take up as much space as I can as a single guitar player. My best version of doing that was using chords in place of like full-bodied chords instead of just a power chord,
right?
To fill out that extra frequency and space. And then it just became a part of my style. And now when I try to switch to standard tuning in any key, I'm missing those bottom 2 notes. I can't make certain shapes, and it just feels very limiting. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no. I feel you, because I have one guitar that pretty much stays in standard, but every time I pick it up, it's either Stevie Ray Vaughan songs or Metallica. Like, that's the only thing that comes out when I play in standard tuning.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, for me, that one is the one that stays in standard.
Metal. That's all I got.
I put that one in standard, and then I actually drop it down a half step so I can play classic Van Halen songs in E flat, and then I just throw a capo on it
too. Yeah, in any '80s stuff, I can still play.
Yeah, and then I just throw a capo on it when I want to play Metallica. Mm-hmm. But it's verbatim what you just said.
Feel like outdated.
Standard tuning.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word, because it doesn't. If you hear a band that's in standard, it doesn't sound outdated. But when I play it, it's like the same shapes and things that I've done for 20 years.
No, I think that's a great way to say it.
Yeah. You ever mess around in like really weird tunings?
Like DADGAD and shit?
Yeah, any open tunings and
little bit
double dropped and
yeah, mostly when I started fucking around with the 7, that's when I really started dicking around with other tunings, because I don't really know what I want my 7 string to be tuned to. Like, I didn't know if I wanted it to be in standard tuning and then with just an extra string, or do I want to be in drop C,
right,
and then have that be like a typical tuning below that, or do I want to have it a double drop on those bottom I never decided. I never figured it out.
Yep.
It'll happen when I write a great song on the 7 string, and whatever that tuning is in, that's what that guitar will stay in.
Yeah, there's some guys that would play 7 string in like a more of a, not a dropped, like lower tuning, maybe in like a drop D or whatever, but instead of having that lower string, they add a higher like harmony string.
Oh,
so it's something higher than your high E.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
Or like a third up, so anything you play would be like a minor third on those 2 high strings. I don't know how that would. I can't imagine. Can't think of like how that looks like visually right now.
Right.
But I would imagine you can do some pretty cool stuff with chords.
Yeah, probably. I think for me, I would still want those low notes. I'd want to go lower without detuning even farther. Because I know a lot of guys, the new big thing is to play in like drop A, but on a 6 string.
Yeah.
It does sound pretty fucking heavy. It sounds pretty badass, but it also like, I don't know. I think there's something really beautiful about those high notes and those beautiful harmonies, like the section in Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
Like that's just not going to sound that way tuned down 2 whole steps or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, I don't know. You get into weird like intonation problems. You start tuning low. You can go heavier strings and all the things that people. When your low string just goes brown, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You play a baritone or get a 7 or 8 string.
Yeah.
Like, at a certain point. Like,
yeah, I've noticed that too. Even with guys with 7 strings, it's like, I don't know. I feel like we're so technology dependent now. It's like, it feels almost disingenuous to write a song on an instrument you can't hear without amplification. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Right? So like, I can play my electric guitar on my 6 string, especially in standard, but still in drop C, and I can hear every single note as I play it.
Yeah.
But on a 7 string on that low B, you're not actually hearing those. It becomes a percussion part of your guitar at that point until you plug it in and turn it up.
Yeah, if you get into like the gent style stuff, a lot of the guitar stuff is way more percussive, which has its place. Depends what kind of music you want to play.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my bag.
Right.
You know, for me, it's way more about being melodic and catchy than it is being heavy nowadays. It wouldn't have been true 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yes. I like heavy. I just never really got into the genty stuff.
What is it? What is it that puts you off?
I don't know. I got a lot of shit because I used to always say that gent was just the new metal of this generation.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That. I don't know if that's just me, like get off my lawn kind of old man vibes, but it's probably mostly that because a lot of the shit that I used to hate on, even like early Periphery stuff, everybody was just all over their balls forever. Like, oh, Misha's the greatest guitar player, and I'd watch him play. Like, he's writing cool stuff, but this is like every 11-year-old's like icon right now. Like,
sure.
Meh. But now I go back and listen to him like, oh, it's way cooler than I gave it credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just old man shit for sure.
Yeah.
I think everybody does that.
I did it with pop. With anything that wasn't heavy, that's what I was mocking.
Yeah. Or, I listen to everything but country. Those guys. There's some cool country.
Yeah, the last like 3-4 days I've been on a Fleetwood Mac binge. Out of nowhere for absolutely no fucking reason. Just like really into that classic rock sound.
Yep.
And I think, actually, I don't think it has, there's no reason. I think it has to do with the fact that I've been recording and looking into recording techniques and recording drum techniques. And I stumbled across a video that was talking about like how they recorded classic rock drums. And a lot of them only use 3 microphones.
And the fucking drums sound
amazing. They sound amazing. Yep. Like, yeah, they have a snare mic, they have a kick mic, and then one overhead. And it's in front of the drum set, not behind it.
Like more of a room mic than an overhead,
Yeah, and it's just I think that's what got it in my head because they were talking about classic rock drums, and so I just went back and started listening to more classic rock to hear it. And it's amazing.
A lot of the classic rock, my go-to stuff's like Allman Brothers. Like I guess you can call Pink Floyd classic rock. I don't know. It's more progressive, but it's an era, like classic rock era.
Yeah,
I suppose.
I feel like anything that was in that time frame and inspired by drugs is classic rock.
Sure.
Right?
But like Allman Brothers stuff, just the songwriting, guitar playing, the vocals, like holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like on a different level.
I got into the Eagles like a year or 2 ago.
Sure.
Just finally was musically mature enough to appreciate what the
Yep.
Eagles were actually doing. Steve Miller Band. I've always been a big Steve Miller Band fan. The guitar work in there has always been incredible. Thin Lizzy, always been a fan of them. Always been a Thin Lizzy.
Listen to
Yeah, they're fucking good. They were sneaky good. Like, but that's the other crazy thing, man, is like all of those classic rock bands were incredibly good. Whether you like their music or not, they were all great. Exactly. Yeah, there was no half-ass guitars like there are today.
Right.
Or even the drums. Like, they seem like they're boring and simple, but when you really start breaking them down, it's like, God, these were some of the greatest songwriters from a drumming perspective of all time. And I do think it was kind of the golden age of music. I think it's some of the greatest songwriting we've ever seen before or since. Call me crazy, but I really do.
Maybe, but or was it just the first of it? Like the first time you hear a thing is going to be the best. And there's only so many things.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because I was thinking about this earlier, right? Yeah, because was that just the standard? Or were they actually doing something special? And the reason I think it was the golden age and some of the best is because you can look at shit that was coming out up to 20 years before that and 40, 50 years after that. And it's still not the same. Like, some of those classic rock songs are still prolific level hits today.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but is that because that was the first stuff that was on radio?
No, because like there was bands before that with like Beatles and Rolling Stones and Elvis Presley,
which are still considered some of the best of all time.
True,
you know,
but they were the first, right? So they invented things like the 3-chord rock and roll and standard progressions and like things like that. But I think even the Beatles became better songwriters in the classic rock age than when they first started off.
Okay, I see.
I don't think Elvis Presley did anything, even if the sales are there to back it up. I don't think Elvis Presley is impacting young musicians today. You see what I'm saying? The Rolling Stones might, the Beatles might, but I still think it was their later music in the 70s when music was inspired by LSD, weed, mushrooms, shit like that. By the time it turned around to the 80s, where cocaine and alcohol were the main inspirers of music, I think songwriting started to take a dive, and I think recording techniques started to take a dive as well. My buddy Kevin has pointed out that start listening to vocals recorded in the 80s, and it's like the entire industry forgot how to do it. And I didn't understand what he was talking about until I really started to listen to it. And I'm like, God, he's right. These fucking vocals sound like shit.
They're super compressed.
Yeah.
Like overproduced.
Yeah,
like
dude.
Harmonies on everything. Yeah, I could see that.
Way too much reverb or not enough.
I think it's probably maybe more of a cultural thing. As far as like what's iconic and prolific.
Yeah, and I think the 70s, the 60s and 70s in the classic rock era is also the last era of them like really experimenting while creating hit songs. Whereas now when music experiments, yeah, it can be popular, but it's popular on a niche level. Right? Like Gent. Like that's not pop music.
No. But
there was a time where even, because technically Van Halen came out of the classic rock era. They're at the tail end of classic rock. Even they were still doing pop songs on that first record from day one. You know, and then you started getting into metal, right? Like Metallica and shit like that. But if you really listen to it, even they were writing pop songs. They were just so heavy that people didn't know what to do for 20 years. It took a while. It took a while.
Right.
I think they started that band in 1977 or 78.
Yeah, it's always pretty wild to go back and actually see when some of your favorite stuff was made.
Yeah, they started Metallica in the very late 70s. Their first record was out in 1983. Their first demo was out in 1981. And by 1991, they were the biggest band on the planet. It's like a 14-year journey.
Right.
But they had success from day one.
Yeah.
Like even locally, as a local band, they burst on the scene. And people were like, these guys are awesome.
That would have been weird. Fucking wild around then.
I think I would have enjoyed it more than being alive now.
Because maybe
technology and convenience are the only things that are actually better now. Like the cost of everything was more affordable back then. Like, yeah, amps were still expensive, all that shit, right? Everything was still expensive.
You're saying as far as being a musician?
Yeah. Especially being a musician. Especially being a musician. Yeah, because you could afford to go on a road trip as a broke college student, as a broke high school student. You and your buddies could go for a summer trip. Like, you could work for a summer at McDonald's and save up for a Marshall stack.
Sure.
Now you ain't doing that shit. Now it's fucking $5,000 for a Mesa amp. You know what I mean? Like inflation and the cost and all these things, and like there's so much. That's the other thing too, is there just wasn't as much music out there. So if you were good and driven and focused, you could do it much easier than you could do now. You could even make a living as a musician without ever being famous. There's guys since the 40s who put kids through college being local musicians, just being in jazz bands and shit here in Minneapolis. That doesn't happen anymore. Right. That's what I'm getting at. Like, I think I would have been happier back then.
Yeah. I don't know if it was easier. It's definitely different. I mean, there's guys making a living just playing music on the internet. Like we were kind of talking about that earlier.
That's totally true.
Streaming live on Twitch, playing cover songs, and they got fucking sponsors and they got free gear. That's how they make their living.
That is,
it's just different.
It's more convenient for sure. Mm-hmm. It's easier in the convenient side of things now, but it's also like there's so much out there.
Yeah,
you really gotta, and like I said, now you can't just be a musician. Now you got to be a Twitch streamer. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to be a video editor. You got to be a marketer. You got to wear 6 hats to be a professional musician nowadays. Back then, you could just be a guitar player and make a really good living. You could just be a bass player. You could just be a drummer. You could do session work where it's like, yeah, you're not twitching it or streaming at home, but you don't have to go on the road to make a really good living. You're just a pro drummer from Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. Records used to be made on tour. That's the other thing too. Stop in Minneapolis, record 3 songs for your album. Mm-hmm. That shit just doesn't happen anymore now. It's all about doing it in your basement. So technology and convenience makes things better now, but that's the only thing that's better now as far as I'm concerned. Because the gear also, I don't think sounds as good.
I would agree.
I get eaten alive for this.
But
all the time.
It depends what you consider good too. I think people's tastes change. As like if you're fed a certain diet, that's what you're gonna like.
Yeah, you're probably right. Unless you get sick of it after a while, right? You get fed steak every day.
I mean, food's
after
even
a while,
the same.
You hate steak.
If you think about it, food's even the same way. Like in the 70s and the 80s, it was all maybe not 80s because we were eating a lot of fucking garbage when I was a kid. But
80s is when processed food got introduced. Yeah,
and then I think it's probably the same way with music. Like if that's what you're used to, that's what you're gonna like. There are probably kids right now that listen to old Pantera stuff, which was super heavy when we were kids, and thinks it's like garbage,
right? And
sounds really weak, not heavy enough.
Well, I mean, that's definitely true if you're listening to it on iTunes through your earbuds.
Just fucking smash everything.
No, they even do lossless recordings now, and it's lossless. It really is lossless.
I mean, more production wise, like everything's so fucking smashed and compressed.
Well, and it's just the volume.
The snare drums, everything just like sucks in when you hear it. Like, I still hear compression. I don't know if most people do anymore.
I just finally started hearing it in the last couple of years.
You hear that like
the it's like a pumping sound.
Yep.
Yeah, I just started being able to hear it, and I had never heard it before until my buddy Kevin. We were listening to it's actually one of the old Johnny Rook albums. The one they did where Dalton was the guitar player on it.
Sure.
I forget the name of it. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast, but I was listening to that record in the gazebo on a Bluetooth speaker, and my buddy Kevin is like, I never realized how overcompressed this record is. And I was like, it is? And he goes, yeah, listen, it's like, and all of a sudden it was like, not only did I hear it, but now that's all I can fucking hear on that record.
And it's like fatiguing after a while.
Yeah, it's like I can't even listen to that record anymore because now all I hear is that overcompression. And it's
when bands started using, I mean, you hear like overcompression in pop and hip hop constantly, but with metal, when guys started doing like 808 bass hits, like super low, like dub drops, and then everything else disappears in the mix complete. All the highs get sucked out, the mids are gone, and it's just ooh, that's so overcompressed.
Yep,
like
100%.
And then they start doing it like with snares, and you start hearing snare drums that are overcompressed. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I noticed once I started hearing the compression is the lack of mids.
Yeah,
in a lot
just dynamics too.
Yeah,
like
it's like
every single snare hit is exactly the same.
Yeah,
like
that one I don't mind
level-wise.
as much in metal.
again, it depends on the style of music.
Yeah,
for sure,
in metal, it doesn't matter as much when you get that kind of over compression on the drums, but I noticed it in the guitars in the mid ranges. Like they're doing something with the compression where the guitars just sound squished, I guess you could say, because
squishy.
they're really crisp and they're clean on the high end and they sound nice and thick and meaty, but they don't have any like mid breath. Like they don't breathe at all. And so and I think most of that isn't even over compression and recording techniques. I think a lot of that is just digital guitar modeling. Like they're going direct into their interface and recording right into the computer, and it sounds good on the monitors.
Yep. Probably sounds great in headphones.
Yep. And then, but you start pulling it around and you start putting it in different audio systems, whether it's I listen to it on my earbuds or
they also mix things for headphones and earbuds now.
Right. Which
that's how most people listen to music.
Right. But that's
or in
dumb.
A car.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
The way they used to mix was it needs to sound great on everything.
Yep.
But you're 100% correct.
Yeah. Like you got a Winterland or the Terrarium, any like crazy mixing mastering studio, they'll have like ridiculous subwoofers and speakers and all, and then they'll have like your regular, I don't even know if they make them anymore, like NS10s. I forget who made. Yeah. I don't think they make them anymore, but they technically they'll sound like shit.
On
but
purpose.
they sound exactly the way they're very flat. And then I remember even Brian Johnson, when he was at Winterland, he had this super shitty little like $30 Walmart boombox that he would like jack into and listen to it on there too.
Yeah, when we used to do it back in the day, they'd give us a CD and they'd go play this everywhere in your car, on your mom's sound system, fucking recorded onto a tape like you're going to record a CD. You know what I mean? Like I want to hear it in every version, every format. And yeah, all of a sudden the drummer would come back and be like, he'd be like, I can't hear my kick drums at all on this boombox. And dude would be like, okay, bring the boombox in. I want to hear it. And then he'd go in and he would adjust something. And this is what I mean. It didn't sound any different on anything else except that fucking boombox. Because he realized that that boombox's frequency response was missing this one thing. So he just added this frequency in, and now it sounds great on the boombox. Nowadays, you're right, dude. People aren't doing that. They're mixing it for earbuds. They're mixing it for your phone. They're mixing it for... And that's cool because it sounds good, but it also isn't cool because it doesn't sound good anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be much longer before headphone technology catches up and starts exposing some of the shittiness in these recordings. And I think that's the difference between timeless music like Thriller or the Metallica fucking Injustice for All, or even actually probably better would be Master of Puppets, but certain albums are timeless because it doesn't matter when they were recorded because they were fucking recorded correctly. And I get it. You know, $10,000 fucking or $100,000 studio back in the day, not affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
But now you can go record a badass album for a few grand if you pay a real pro.
Yeah.
But again, most guys are trying to do it at their home for a couple hundred.
Laptop metal.
That's a great phrase. It's laptop metal. Oh my god, that's so perfect.
Like I don't think you can record a rock album that way. Or if you're a blues band, could you program drums and get away with not having tube amps? And I don't know if you could.
I mean, you definitely could, but I think it would. I think it would be noticed.
Very obvious.
Yeah, I think it would be noticed. I think people. You might even be able to get away with calling yourself blues, but it's not going to sound like a blues record.
Right.
Now they have AI drummers, though. You ever fucked with those guys?
No.
Pro Tools doesn't have this. Logic, the new versions of Logic have at least 4 AI drummers. They have names. So like the one I like is Kyle, right? And he's got a style. And then you can change his drum kit. And then they give you grids, and it's like you move it into different parts of the grid, and he will play a different thing, right? You can program to follow your guitar, so his rhythms naturally match with what the riff you're writing. And then if he's too busy, you can tell him to back off. If he's too simple, you can tell him to step it up. And it's like, it's actually pretty fucking incredible, and it actually sounds really good too. It's still not the same,
right?
But it's about as close as I've ever fucking heard. So if you were going to do like a blues record or something, like that's how you would have to do it. And you wouldn't technically be programming the drums. You'd be programming the drummer, and then the AI would write drums. And they do sound incredible, and they do sound like a real drummer. It doesn't sound like he's doing too much, where it's like no real drummer could play all that. It's like, no, that sounds like a legit, really good studio drummer. That's about the closest I've seen to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Even some of the program stuff sounds really good if you have like good samples. And if like, again, depends on the style of music, but yeah, when all the dynamics are gone, it just drives me.
I know what you mean though.
Yeah. Because I played in metal bands and whatever, but not like the only style of music I've listened to. I like a lot of really music with texture, I guess, or like visually ups and downs, and metal doesn't, like modern metal production doesn't have any of that.
No.
It's just fuck you. Like,
yeah, all the drums are at the same volume. All the hi-hats, all the kicks, all the snares, everything has to be, what was the Drumagog? Where it would detect your hits, and then you could set all the velocity hits. So like you'd have a drummer that hits his left kick way too soft. That doesn't matter as long as it's on beat. You could just bring it up.
Right. Yeah, the guys that max out their triggers when they play live, so every kick's like in your heart, even though they're like totally pussyfooting the left side.
Yeah, the problem with that is then if they accidentally tap the drum a second time, you get a full kick out of it instead of a ghost
note. Or you
note.
get the little machine gun fucking with one hit.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you only hit it once. Those second two were rebounds.
Yeah, I'm sure they're way better now than they were like even a decade ago.
But probably, but I don't know if anybody's using them outside of metal.
Right.
Maybe some rock drummers are using them, but again, if you're a real pro, you're controlling that on purpose dynamically to produce a sound. Like people do hit softer notes on their kick drums for a reason.
Yeah.
You can't do that with triggers.
Right.
So I would, and then so if the trigger can switch with the velocity of my hit, then what's the point of the trigger? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're already playing the drum. Now the problem is you don't know how to tune your drum.
I was just gonna say, I guess then you don't have to like tune your drums.
Yeah, that not cool.
Or worry
not fucking cool.
Or
man.
Worry about house microphones.
And if anybody thinks I'm being a dick about this right now, let's convert this analogy to guitar. Imagine a guitar middying all of your notes based on it detecting what fret you're playing, and then even if your guitar is out of tune, it's still gonna play the note perfectly. Fuck off. Learn how to play your guitar. You see what I'm saying? Like, learn how to tune your fucking guitar. If you need that kind of technology, you don't deserve to play guitar. Any guitar player would agree with me right now. Why do drummers not agree with this? Because they're lazy. That's the fucking difference. Dude, you don't know how... Yes, I do. I play drums. I know exactly how fucking hard it is. And that's exactly the whole fucking point to the spiel as well. Work harder. Try. Fucking cheat. Lazy ass motherfuckers. There's a reason my album hasn't come out in a year.
Yeah. I'm sure there was like... Even 15 years ago when people were first starting to really bitch about auto-tune. Auto-tune's been around for fucking who knows how long. It might not even been auto-tune, but it would pitch correction. I think of like all the Cher songs from the 90s, It's very obvious it was auto-tune. But I think that's where we're at with guitars. Like it's getting that annoying where I hear fake guitars now. Yeah. When before, like, it was like, oh, pop singers were using autotune as an effect. And then pretty soon it's like they're using it to correct pitch. And now it's so much a part of the industry that you almost hear it when it's not there.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think that's where it's going with guitars now, too. Like, when I hear some stuff, I'm like, that's a fucking real amp. And some stuff, it's really obvious it's not. But for the most part, if you hear something and it sounds familiar, you're like, well, an Axe Effects or a Kemper.
Yeah. The autotune is an interesting example to use, right? Because autotune, I don't remember why it was invented, but it wasn't invented for vocals. Yeah, something
I think it was sonar.
Something weird like that.
Yeah.
It was invented for something other than music.
Mm-hmm.
But then as soon as they got done creating it, they were like, oh my God, do you realize what we could do with this? We could like fix bad vocalists with this. It was some sort of weird pitch shifting technology. But it was originally used exactly the way you described it, as an effect by already prolific singers.
Right.
Cher is one of the greatest singers of all time. She was well revered as an elite level top end singer in the 60s and 70s, even into the 80s, even into the 90s with If I Could Turn Back Time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she came with that song, the Do You Believe in Life After Love?
Yeah.
And it was just an effect. And then the next evolution was T-Pain made it his sound, like a guitar player makes his tone. And that was what was a problem. Was when he made it his sound, it became popular, and then other musicians, other pop artists also wanted that sound, and it got polluted really fucking fast. Really fast. And to where now there's two versions of the music industry. You've got young people who lack talent and they use it on even things like their rapping. Like I've heard rappers using autotune and I can hear it. I'm like, why are you using autotune over a mono,
something that doesn't need a melody?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And like, even if it did need a melody, like you're rapping, you're not singing where you're doing these dramatic, like put a little bit of pitch correction on that one note because it's a little off. Don't add autotune to the whole fucking track. And then there's the other group, which are people like me, which find it distasteful and borderline insulting.
Yeah.
Like it went from being real, and this isn't just for guys like me either. There's people in the pop and hip hop industry that are like, that's an outdated, distasteful sound. So
and I know, like,
I think it's almost over at this point.
In a lot, definitely in metal and like pop vocals now. That same thing we were talking about with Beat Detective, where they'll take the performance, they'll snap it perfectly to the notes vocally, and then they'll like soften the edges to make it sound more human. Like, why don't you just do it right? I understand time in a studio is expensive too, so if like a take's not perfect, but just to run like autotune as a program drives me nuts.
Yeah, and I can understand it from a vocalist perspective if they're just not getting this part.
It fucking happens.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, just fucking autotune that one section. Let's just get out of here. Because you can do grades of it, right? Like, it doesn't have to sound like Cher or T-Pain.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be autotune either. Like, I know a lot of studios use Melodyne, which is a similar thing. It's just pitch correction. But you can go in and just grab that one note and move it up 30 cents or whatever you have to make it sound.
I think Melodyne invented auto.
You might be right. I'm not exact. It's like a story I heard 15 years ago and don't remember.
You're an Apple phone user, right? Do you have Apple TV?
I do have an Apple TV. Oh, like the
subscription?
No.
Oh, they have a great documentary with one of the like most prolific modern day producers. He's done a bunch of dope shit, dude. From hip-hop producers to rock guys to Amy Winehouse. And each episode is breaking down different parts of production. Like one episode is just entirely about reverb. Like the whole episode is about exploring the history of reverb, the different types of reverb, and how important it is to recording, and like how you use it, where you use it, when you use it, how much of it, what types. It's pretty impressive. But one of those episodes is on autotune, and they go into the history. They talk to the guys who invented it. It's pretty impressive. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's maybe you guys, if anybody's still watching this, do me a favor, put it in chat. Just Google this for me real quick. Apple TV documentary music production. I'm sure it'll pop up. The cover's in black and white. Can't remember the fucking name of the dude. Can't remember the name of the documentary. But if anybody is remotely interested in what we're talking about, they should definitely watch that documentary because it's fucking fascinating, dude. And it really, whether you're a musician or you're a fan, I think it does a great job of helping you develop a new level of respect and appreciation for even modern day producers.
Yeah, it's like pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, because it's a real expertise, and I think a great producer is just as rare and just as valuable as a great songwriter or a great performer.
Yeah, the guy pushing the buttons, it's just as, if not more important than the band recording it.
Yes, I mean, I think it varies, right? So for bands, we typically write our own music and show up to the studio with music written, typically.
Yeah, right.
But like that Amy Winehouse episode that they did, because one entire episode was on Reverb based on the idea that Amy Winehouse came to him and said, I want to record a record like this, and played this old song from the 60s or 70s.
Say like some old jazz shit for sure.
Some like haunting, it was like really haunting female-led classic rock is what it was. And so he had to go in and research, like, how am I going to get this sound? And he realized the entire sound of this record is reverb. Different types of reverb, different amounts. And so every instrument on that record has a certain amount of reverb, including the vocals. And then the end mix, there's more reverb on top of it all. So when you go listen to Back in Black by Amy Winehouse, that's the record he did. And point being, once he figured out how he was going to make the sound of the record, then he sat down with a group of musicians and wrote all the music that she could sing over. It's fucking mind-blowing, dude. Like, it was really impressive, dude. It's one of the coolest documentaries, and it's a TV show, so you can, it's not like you have to sit down and carve out 6 hours. You can fucking watch an episode or two. I haven't even finished the whole fucking thing. I'm only like halfway through it. Fucking awesome. I love it.
I think even bands do that. I think a lot of, especially if you're like the guy starting the band, you know what sound you want from this band, and you like have to fucking figure out how to do that and find the right guys to do it. It changes as you go, but it's that same way recording. Like when you go into recording, maybe not when you're tracking, depends. Definitely when you're mixing, if you've ever like been in the room while someone's mixing something, and if they want your feedback, which most of them do, they'll actually ask you to bring like albums that you like, that have guitar tones that you want, stuff like that, and they'll like A/B between your mix and those mixes back and forth.
Yeah, reference track.
Yeah,
especially in the mixing. But a really great producer will do that up front, like you just said, to help. How do we even get there?
Right.
Because you don't necessarily, if that guy's using a Marshall, it doesn't mean you need a Marshall. But it means we got to EQ your fucking Mesa differently. You know, we're going to do things differently in the approach. You know, maybe, okay, he used a Marshall, you're on a Mesa, we got to EQ it differently, and we got to use these 3 microphones in a blend in order to mimic that Marshall sound.
Right.
That's a real engineer and a real producer. And that's the guys you should pay money for, because we're not going to do this at home recording in our own shit. Like you might be able to dry track if they give you the instructions, right? So like use a 57, use a RE20, use whatever.
Right.
But still, most of the time, and that's another thing that's really been fucking me up, dude, is realizing the importance of the room. Like you can have a great drum set, which I have. You can have great mics, which I have. You can have, I don't have top tier recording gear. It's mid range, like my Zoom and my Scarlett. It's mid range gear. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not pro gear. It's not. This is high end amateur gear, or the cheapest pro gear you could possibly get. Entry level pro gear. Realistically, it's mid range. But the room, if the room sounds like shit, it doesn't fucking matter how good any of that other stuff is. In fact, better equipment oftentimes will just expose the shittiness of everything else.
I think that's what tube amps do to guitar players.
Yeah.
I played solid state for a long time because didn't know any better. Couldn't afford whatever reason it was. Didn't really know or care about guitar tone. And then as soon as I started playing tube amps, like it completely changed the way I played.
What made you start?
Good question. I don't really know.
Like, did your band sound like shit compared to the band that came up after you one night? That's what it was for me. That's when we played basically our first show. I thought we sounded good. We played our first show. We opened. The next band had actual pro gear, and I basically blew that band up. I was like, we're done. Because I knew nobody was buying pro gear. I was like, this is an embarrassment. We're done. Like, and the next band I formed, we all had pro gear. Like, it was that quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember even you were talking about this one of the podcasts I watched. Maybe it was with Seeley. Yeah, you were talking about Chad from Banehinge, and he had an old Marshall AVT something. It was a 4-channel I had the same amp when I was in aEstyria. Same exact head.
Solid state, right?
Well, there was one single preamp tube.
Oh.
And then solid state power amp.
Interesting.
His sounded really good. Mine sounded like fucking dog shit.
Is it just because you didn't know how to dial it in or what?
Probably not. And then, I mean, he's also playing a different guitar, different tuning, different style, the whole thing. I guess being in that crazy far from aEstyria, like the tones would have worked for both.
I know what you mean.
But I was also like 19. Like, fuck do I know about playing live? In my bedroom, it sounds great.
Right.
One of those things. And it was a Marshall half stack, so I don't really remember. I know that was a really expensive head. And I traded that plus money for a 5150.
Right.
And it was like I think probably 2006 when I bought that my first 5150. It was like right at the beginning of everyone starting to use those again. Like all the big touring bands were touring with those. They didn't record with them. They didn't necessarily, but they toured with them because they were a dime a dozen. You could, if your fucking amp blew up, you just go to a guitar store and buy a 5150 or a 6505.
Yep.
You know, you got a couple $100, you can go find a used one.
Yep.
Maybe not now, but back then you could. So
yeah.
every
they were literally
band,
it was standard to find a used 6505 or even a 5150, and I'm talking about the 2.
Yep.
Or the plus, whatever. It was standard $400 for the longest time, and then they were 500. And then it was like they started creeping up towards 600. And then when Eddie died, now, no, I'm talking about a used one.
Oh.
And then once Eddie died, it's like even the fucking brand new ones, the 6505s, even those are hard to find because they just, once he died, it was just whatever. But
yeah, I guess I don't really remember why.
Sometimes it's guys getting advice or peer pressure even from other local bands. Like, they get insecure because they heard so-and-so at the bar. They didn't realize that I was there, and I heard so-and-so saying our band's tone sucks and we sound like shit, and took a long, hard look at myself and realized it was true and had to buy a new rig.
I could probably say that looking back, but I don't know that for sure.
There wasn't something out of memory.
I know a lot of the 5150s I've heard sound terrible, but... It's probably more the guitar player than the amp.
Yeah, because or bad tubes too. That's another thing. It's like, everything's great, but those tubes are fried, and your amp sounds like shit. Get new tubes; it'll sound amazing.
Right. Oh, it's a really bright sounding amp too. Like the mids are just like super barky and gnarly. So if you can't tame that down somehow, because it's like not from the factory, you can't really bias those tubes. They just are what they are.
Right.
You can't like run them hot or cold to get different sounds. But
unless
guys
you get an
will do
attenuator
mods.
or something.
Yeah, guys will do mods and stuff, but that's what was like popular about that amp is the brown sound. It was like there wasn't another amp that sounded like that.
Right.
Because of that. But if you didn't want that sound, you had to do something else. I always found using a darker speaker cabinet and like darker guitar tones with the 5150, like kind of smoothed it out so it wasn't so harsh.
No, I agree.
Because the 5150 can be pretty harsh.
Yeah, and that's why I like the Les Paul sound through the 5150 because it's a little thicker.
Yeah.
That mahogany body, it works, kind of beefens it up a little bit. Plus, you get the humbucker pickups, which is a little thicker than a single coil. And my favorite combo is the 5150 with the Mesa cab because the Mesa is
a big fat boy.
Yeah, dude. And the technical term is the flub rate, which I think is literally the amount of
breakup in the speaker.
Yeah, it's like the amount of times the speaker moves forward on each sound wave or the speed that it moves forward or something like that, right? And it's got a lower flub rate, which makes it sound lower or thicker or whatever. And you combine that with that bright ass head and it just crushes. You get the perfect response. Because like you said, the 5150 is extremely bright and it's very mid heavy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you drop in something like that Mesa, and it just thickens that bad boy.
Yeah, favorite cab I found was, I still have it now, because I got it back after it was sold.
No shit.
Yeah. It's a frameless Cobra cab, but it's got two V30s and two greenbacks, and the greenbacks are only 25 watt. So at like super low gain, it's probably that
still
similar
sounds good.
speaker thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
To where like really low gain, it almost sounds compressed, and it fucking just roars. It sounds so good.
Yeah, I actually want to get an attenuator mod on my 5150. The dude who repaired my 5150 even gave me a price quote for it. I think it's cheap too, dude. I think it's only like $125. But yeah, then I can literally just drop the wattage on that fucker and still get just a great tone for recording at a super low volume, which is incredible. Because that's the big... Still to this day, you can do it, but it is not fucking easy to get great tone recording 120 watt tube head.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard.
Yeah. We recorded the last EP in A Moment Without. Recorded with Burn, and it was in his like basement studio. Recorded guitars, and it was a Diesel Herbert through I think a couple different cabs that we mic'd up. And that fucker was so like all the dishes in his kitchen were like vibrating for hours. Like I don't know how his house stayed erect. It was so loud, but it sounded.
I was down here playing my drum kit when the rehearsal space was in this room. My drum set was right there. Had Dalton on my 5150 over here, and had a bass player in here on a 15-inch speaker, and everything was fine. My wife even went outside, and she's like, "You can't really even hear it outside. It's super quiet." Fucking Kevin came down one day while that dude wasn't here, and wanted to jam with us. I'm like, Kevin, plug in your rig. I want to show these guys what a real bass rig sounds like. Because he's got 8 10-inch speakers in that cab. And he runs a Crown power amp through the Sans amp. Dude, every fucking one of these cans came off the fucking wall, dude. Beer bottles back there were tipping over. Those beer bottles are all tipped forward a little bit. The way the shelves are, they're kind of fucked up. They all tip forward a little bit. And they're caught on like a lip. So they literally can't fall outward.
Right.
Dude, they vibrated so hard they fell backwards. Like, how does that happen, dude? It was fucking wild, dude. And yeah, that bass player for the longest time was really mad at me because I kept trying to tell him his bass rig wasn't good enough to go on stage. I was like, I ain't going on stage with you with that fucking bullshit rig. That's a practice amp rig. He's like, it's a really expensive amp. I'm like, yeah, it's a really expensive practice amp, but that's not a real rig.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. I'm sorry, dude.
Well, there's a lot of bass players that would use whatever bass amp, but they would split DI through a Sans amp out to the board.
Yeah.
So you'd get a totally different tone through the front of house.
And that's fine if you're playing in a pro room with a pro PA and a great sound guy. The reason you need this shit is when you show up to a lot of the clubs that people are playing at now, where their PA's kind of bullshit, or the sound guy's kind of bullshit. And no matter what, if it sounds like shit everywhere in the room, just get close enough to the stage and it sounds amazing because the band's equipment sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, fucking Kevin came down here, fired up his rig. We started jamming, and even Dalton was like, "Okay, I see what you're saying now." Because it wasn't about volume; it was about the sound quality. It was about the way we cut through the mix with each other.
Yeah, it was that way with Jamal. Jamal's always had like the most ridiculous bass tone.
Really?
Didn't even matter what rig he had. Like this PV fire bass thing. I think the fucking thing was like 900 watts or something. I'm probably wrong. I'm sure it was 3. But it was like this, and it sounded so good. And I remember how long he had that, and if he went to Ampeg or
Jamal, if you're still in chat, clarify what your bass rig is. What he's
probably
talking
different
about.
now. But
remember when Dano from B had that Aguilar rig? That's probably the best sounding bass tone I've ever heard in my life. I think he said he blew that, like he blew the amp.
Sure.
Because I seen him like a year or two later, and he wasn't using that rig anymore. What happened to the Aguilar? Don't even get me started. Those are fucking expensive. I think they're like $6,000 for that rig.
Sounds right.
Fucking not cheap, man. How long we been going? A little over 2 hours.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not too shabby. You want to keep going? Should we wrap this up?
Oh, I don't know. I gotta pee a little bit.
Why don't you take a leak?
Sure.
I'll play a song. I gotta take a leak anyway, so take turns. You can go first. We'll take a break. I'll play a song and then go for like another Half hour to an hour?
Sure.
Right, let's see if I can figure out this fucking shit. Let's see, we'll play. This is a song I wrote. It's off my upcoming album. Suck it.
Revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having.
Yeah, we have still, to this day, with all the pedals, because we used to all work at Guitar Center together when we were in that band together, and
Yeah.
we, with all the pedals and all the technology we had access to, because we could loan gear and bring it to rehearsal and try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Our manager loved that because it made us better sales guys, because we really knew the equipment now.
Yep.
We never were able to replicate that tone. So I've kept that amp this entire time, just for someday if I'm ever in some obscure rock band like that again, I'm carrying around this fucking 100-pound piece of shit just for this tone I can't find anywhere else. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, but definitely not great gear that's been recorded and has like on iconic record for sure.
I think it's interesting how a lot of that's come back, like certain tones.
Yeah.
So like there's like old
Guitar
organs,
fuzz,
and not even that, like old organs that were like used in the 70s to create standard music and
there's
shit.
like foot keyboards and shit now.
Yeah. Shit that
I mean, they were
been,
always around, but
nobody used them.
Like Mastodon records with foot keyboards and shit.
The
same one that Geddy Lee used.
Yep, exactly. Obscure
records,
shit that like stopped being used in the 80s.
They use it for like one part in one song. It's this $20,000 piece of gear.
Yep, and it used to be on every record in the 60s.
Yeah.
People stopped using them by the 80s. 90s, it was forbidden. 2000s, it was outdated, right? Now, all of a sudden, here we are in 2020, and motherfuckers are like legitimately playing real instruments from the 60s. Not even just like re-releases. Like they've actually had these things
if you have the
up and running again.
It's no good.
Dude, did you know they're re-releasing the 6505?
Again?
Yeah.
What are they calling it now?
I think it's called, if you're watching, buddy, put it in chat, but I think it's like the 6505 Classic or something like that. And they're making it in China, and already,
it could be awesome, though.
Already all the guitar players are shitting on it.
Well, I mean, people shit on the 6505 when it came. People hated the 5150 that wasn't the original block letter.
True.
All the same circuitry.
Yeah. And the original 6505 was truly identical to the 5152. The 6505 Plus was originally identical to the 5152. It truly was.
There was something with a transformer at some point.
So this is what it was. The combo version, though. They moved the
Smaller
combo version,
though, isn't it? The combo?
They went from 60 to 50, but that shouldn't really make that big of a difference. But yes, you're correct. So the classic version is a 60 watt 212 combo amp. The new version, it's a 50 watt 112. And the circuitry and one of the transformers is different. So now if you go to Guitar Center and plug into a brand new 6505 combo amp, it actually sounds like dog shit compared to a classic 5152 combo amp. There is a distinct difference in the combo amp. And now the new versions of the 6505s, there's also a difference. But yeah, dude, and I can say this with extreme passion and validity because we had a brand new combo 6505 at the store. And I plugged in and I played it, and I looked at Jeff and I was like, dude, why does this thing sound like shit? And he goes, I don't know, man, but everybody knows the combo is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking crazy. Then I was playing with Mark Barr and Dusty Eisenman over at their house here over North Minneapolis like 5-6 years ago. And Dusty had a 5150 combo amp, and it sounded incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way those are the same thing anymore. You're never going to convince me. There's not a single possibility that those are the same amp anymore. And now that's going to be true with the actual full size as well.
I don't think people fell for the didn't Fender make the 5153?
Yeah, and it is badass.
I just don't think people really fell for it though.
It's badass.
Cuz it's still not the original. Which I'm not one of those guys because I'd never even owned a block letter. I don't even think my first one was block. But the thing fucking ripped and it sounded better than the one I have now. For whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean the 5153, I think it rips. I think it's an awesome amp. I think a lot of people hate on it.
So it's not
unjustly.
Made by PV, right?
Yeah.
It's not tied to... Well, I guess that one is tied to Eddie.
Yeah, it's still EVH. It's the difference is Fender started producing EVH instead of PV. The only legitimate gripe with the 5153 is that it's a little too bright. And there's some truth to that because if you listen to the 5150 versus the 2 versus the 3, they did progressively keep getting brighter. And that's literally because fucking Eddie Van Halen started going deaf. And so he's also a meddler. Like he was actually there. Like, nope, I'm not happy. Make it brighter. Nope, I'm not happy. Make it brighter. And it's because he was fucking deaf. Like,
never heard that.
Yeah, I heard that straight from the dude from Fender when I worked at GC. We were talking about it. I still thought it was a great amp. I still, because it's same rule applies, right? You just hook up a Mesa cab, play Les Paul. It sounds amazing.
Yep. Yeah, I think probably the best guitar amp PV's made. They had an old classic 50 that was really cool for like bluesy, like dirty blues rock stuff. But people were trying to pass off the Triple X like 20 years ago, like that was going to be the new metal amp. Like, fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
didn't they make the JSX too?
Yeah.
Or was that somebody else?
No, that was PV. They were like new metal amps. They were super scooped. They were trying to sound like Mesas. I don't like Mesas unless it's like the old boogies, but the
So like you don't like the Mark IVs?
I like those. Yeah, like for sure the Mark IVs and 5s. Definitely, but I was never like a rectifier fan.
Really?
No. That was like that new metal sound. Super scooped, just jun.
Yeah,
That was
really muddy.
Yeah, it was never, I never liked them. They never sounded the way I wanted it to when I played on one. I'm sure I could have. And they've obviously sounded great for fucking millions of other guitar players, so one of those things. When you find your amp, you know it's your amp. I've even played like 5150 is really nothing special.
No, it's not. It's the lowest grade. It's the lowest grade, lowest price point in a professional series amp.
Yeah, you got to spend, like you were talking about cigars earlier. You got to spend a lot of money to get a better amp than a 5150.
Oh,
but it's
almost
really
double.
not that special.
Almost double.
Yeah.
Like, because basically, just if people don't know exactly what we're talking about, a 5150 standard time, pre-pandemic, $1,200 brand new. The next cheapest amp was $2,200 by Mesa Boogie.
It
was legitimately almost double the price.
Yeah, there was a few. There was like Angle. They had the Powerball, which was really expensive. The Fireball, a little 60-watt amp. Sounded a lot like a 5150. That thing fucking ripped. Super simple. Like, I think even just 2-channel, like clean and dirty.
Yeah.
That was all you had. But it sounded really, really cool. And that was right in that $1,000, $1,200. Granted, this is 10, 12 years ago, something like that. But that was a cool amp.
But even the Marshall was $2,000.
Yeah. Or if you want to get into the Bogners,
then you're getting into $3,000.
The diesels,
yep,
like
$3,000. Yeah,
that's a lot of money. Is it? Which you could buy a used 5150 at least at that time for $500. Is it really worth another $2,500 to get a diesel? Depends what you want.
Right.
If you got the money, sure. Probably better for recording than a 5150, but
especially if it's the tone you're going for. Yeah. That's the other thing is like 5150 got a bad rap as being a high gain metal amp, and it's really not. Yeah, it's a high gain amp, but there's two different inputs for a reason. There's normal gain and high gain. And yeah, you're right, man. Most metal guitar players plug into the high gain input. But
dump
if you go into
mids and crank their gain
exactly,
up. Yeah. Not me.
If you go into the normal gain setting and just stay on the clean channel, that's a blues amp. That's a country amp. Yep. And I've seen pros on the road with the 5150 in blues bands, in country bands. You switch out the cab. I mean, there's so many things you can do to that
A
amp.
lot of that sound comes from guitars anyway. If you got a Strat with single coils, you got a blues guitar. Doesn't really matter what amp you play it through. If you got single coils, it's going to sound bluesy as shit.
Yeah, it's interesting because the fucking, what's a PV... the Road King, I think it's called, or something like that. It's like the poor man's 5150. Yep. We used that in the Tyrants for our guitar tone.
I think Foreman had that, or maybe it was the Valve King.
That's what it is.
Yeah, Foreman had that when we first started doing the Moment Without stuff. Sounded good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can jump the effects loop on that. There's a bunch of shit you can do with the Valve King to make it rip. It's a poor man's 5150. Ironically, though, we used that in the Tyrants because it actually it was the Valve King with an OCD pedal and a Fender Telecaster is how we got John's sound. And we tried every other combination and it never worked. Like we tried a 5150, we tried a Mesa, we tried different Fender amps, we tried everything we could possibly get our hands on. And ironically, it was the fucking Valve King that gave us this really dope ass fucking Valve King with an OCD and a Telecaster. That's how we got the Tyrant's tone.
Yeah, I mean, you fuck around enough, you'll find something cool.
But just to answer your statement, right? You said, is it really worth it to go up to a diesel or whatever?
Right.
If it gets you your tone, yeah.
It
But
depends.
you might also end up going the other way. Like, being a $2,000 amp doesn't actually make it the right amp.
Right.
You gotta... This is what makes being a musician difficult, is when you start a band or you want to create a sound, figuring out how to get there. Truly, how to get there. Not just half-assing it. Like, yeah, I could plug in my 5150 and get close to the Tyrant sound. And, you know, this is the new one. Who cares if it's solid state or if it's tube amp? Your listeners aren't going to know the difference. They may not be able to point it out, but they absolutely can tell the difference. They know what sounds like shit and what sounds really good. And when they hear, and that's the thing, is if you really learn how to dial in a tube amp and record a tube amp and present it to the listener, they're going to enjoy it. They're not going to know why, but they are going to notice it. Unless you're Chad Haslazen from Banehinge and you know how to dial in that crazy fucking Marshall solid state amp and get it to sound that great. Most of you don't, though. I don't. Right. I can't get a solid state amp to sound that good. I just can't. I'm not going to pretend I can. So I'm not also going to say, well, no one else is going to notice, because yes, they fucking will. It's the same reason you can tell bad CGI. You know whether it's good, bad, or ugly CGI. You may not know why. You may not be able to do a breakdown video on it, but you know it, and it takes you away from your experience. It takes you out of the movie or the TV show, because the CGI is noticeably bad. That's what I'm getting at. I think the only benefit is that music has been standardized away from tube amps. That's the only reason people can't tell the difference anymore, because they don't have a tube recording to compare it to.
And also, like, the good thing about all the modeling stuff, and maybe not even modeling stuff, because I think it started with reamping, where guys would go in and you might use a Kemper, which that wasn't around in the time I'm thinking of, but probably AxeFX was the main one, where they would go in and they would, whatever studio went to would just have rock, metal, whatever tone set up on AxeFX. So if you're a metalcore band, this is what you tracked with, but they would also run DI and get your dry direct signal. Later, after you're gone and you just came in and did your performance, without you even there, that producer, engineer would set up a real amp, dial in tones, and just run your, just in Pro Tools, just play, record, send the signal to that amp and record it through speakers and a microphone.
And send it right back in on
and
a
just
second
reamp
track.
it. Which,
still one of the best ways to record to this day.
Maybe. Like, I have a weird thing with that. Not because it sounds any different, and because obviously it's a tube amp. As a guitar player, when I like play through different amps, I play differently. Like,
or different tones.
It feels different.
Or different tones.
I don't know why, but when you play through a different amp in a different tone, even through the same guitar, things feel different. Like, you play harder if it's got less gain. You play lighter if there's more gain. Like that, you play that game with your playing. So is it a true performance if you're just playing, you're actually recording with digital tone and then to reamp it later? Are you losing anything?
Yeah,
I feel like you do.
Yeah, but that's why I prefer to do the tube. You record with your tubed amp and then DI and reamp later with something else.
A lot of people do.
That's the way. That's what I meant to say. Is like, I think that's the best way to record. Is you record the way you do it, almost like you're practicing. You're at rehearsal with your tone, but then we DI it out of there, so I have a dry scratch track that I can go manipulate.
You
later.
Also have a safety net if something terrible happens, like if there's a hiss in your guitars, or like you wouldn't think of it, but it's risky. Just being like, yep, that's the tone. Hit record. Let's go. And then you go to mix, and it doesn't fit in the mix. It sounds like shit. Like, well, if you have that DI, you can do a lot with EQs and mixing and stuff too. But I think that's like how reamping kind of got started. Guys recording a direct line for a safety net later. But there's something fucking like romantic about this. Is just what it is. But it depends on the style of music. You're not doing that with metalcore. Like, it's not really about the feel and the tone in metalcore. Like, it's good. If you want if you're recording music that's got some fucking soul, I feel like you need to record what you're actually playing.
I agree. I'm still holding out hope that live recordings come back. You get a band together, they just show up in a studio, and the studio is actually equipped, whether it's separate rooms, right? Because you could even do it with metal if you really wanted to. Or maybe it's just a rock band. But whether they're in the same room or separate rooms, but like sit down and play your song front to back. Let's record it that way.
Right.
I'm still holding out hope for that.
Or as an option. Like, some of my favorite. I mean, I wonder how many times I listened to live albums over the original. Like, whatever that Kill Switch Engage DVD was that was really popular.
Oh, I remember.
It didn't sound as good as the albums.
No.
But it sounded different, and I probably listened to that more than I listened to The End of Heartache.
Sure.
Or Lamb of God, Philadelphia. I listened to those live recordings so many times. It's just better than the studio versions. I don't know why. It's like it's
Peter
alive.
Frampton Comes Alive is a great classic rock version of what you're talking about. Peter Frampton Comes Alive, still one of the greatest selling albums of all time. And yeah, it's a fucking live studio. It's not a studio album that was recorded live. It's a live concert album.
Mm-hmm. There's some August Burns Red stuff that's even something about it. It's like maybe it's more dynamic or whatever it is. Like you can hear whatever's happening between the band and the audience. You hear that in those recordings. The live Pink Floyd stuff too, same way.
You remember when they did Pink Floyd laser light shows? We were just kids, but do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was like a big deal.
Yeah. I remember watching that stuff on like VHS.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, my parents used to go see it at the IMAX theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like down at the Minnesota Zoo or wherever the fuck the IMAX theater used to be when there was only one of them. They weren't in... IMAX wasn't in every movie
I remember
theater.
going to like this, the Science Museum in like 5th grade.
Yeah.
Like, dinosaurs everywhere.
Well, and you remember when IMAX used to actually be IMAX, where it was like half of a globe that you sat under and looked directly up at? Now that's not what IMAX is anymore. It's just an extra big screen.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same as it used to be. But they used to go down. Think about this. How badass is your fucking band where you're selling out laser light shows that you're not even performing at across the country 20 years after your band broke up?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's fucking crazy, bro.
Last summer, I don't know if you remember this, when there was a lot of comedians doing it, and there were some bands. Like comedians were doing like drive-in theaters. Well, some bands were recording concerts with no audience, and then drive-in theaters were showing them on their screens.
That's cool.
I went to a Metallica one in Somerset,
shit.
at like right on the Apple River. Went with my wife and friends or whatever, and they had recorded this concert. It was it wasn't like a single cam just in front of the band, so it looked like a stage. There was some interactions or whatever, but they recorded it at the same like time of day as they were showing it on the screen. So
That's
like the
cool.
skies were changing at the same time. It fucking sounded perfect. They were still interacting with the crowd somehow because there was no crowd. It was actually really, really cool.
Of course it's Metallica doing that.
Yeah. Well,
because it's fucking Metallica. They're the best.
After no concerts for over a year, like they even told us then that, not stay in your car, but stay in your little painted off fucking square where your car, nah, that wasn't happening. People are drinking and playing Frisbee, just like you would a festival.
Yep.
It was fucking beautiful. It's like, finally, Wisconsin's got this shit figured out.
Yep. I might be moving to Wisconsin, bud. I might be taking my whole operation across the river.
Yeah.
Might be going to Hudson. You know, they only got like 14,000 people in Hudson.
It's really not that big. Yeah.
It's fucking sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'm 20 minutes from the cities.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to America.
Half hour tops.
Yeah.
Half hour if I'm trying to go to Minneapolis instead of St. Paul.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we're gonna do it, dude.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna move
right
to
there.
Hudson, and then we're gonna leverage everything, and then we're gonna become snowbirds. So I'm gonna be in Texas 6 months out of the year, and I'll be in Hudson, Wisconsin the other 6 months out of the year.
Yeah, Hudson's cool.
I like the idea of the lower taxes. Your sales tax is only like 5% or 5.5%.
I guess I don't know how, like...
You can still get $3 beers at the bar over there.
Yeah.
It's great.
I guess I don't know how, like, county here, as far as, like, property taxes and stuff, but I know St. Croix County is kind of bendy. As far as like, Wisconsin goes.
Yeah, Hudson's actually
probably cheaper than here.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper than the Twin Cities. But you're right. It is definitely one of the more expensive counties in Wisconsin outside of Milwaukee.
Yeah, because like...
And Madison.
I'm technically in Polk County. I'm like a couple miles basically from the border of St. Croix, Dunn, Burnett. Like they all kind of come together there.
Explain this for people. You live across the river in Wisconsin, but you work in Minnesota, correct?
Yeah. Was born in Wisconsin, grew up in Minnesota, moved back to Wisconsin, moved back to Minnesota, then moved to the Twin Cities, then moved to Wisconsin again.
And then worked in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, I've worked in Minnesota.
The whole time?
Yeah, the whole time.
Even when you were a baby?
Yeah.
It's two different worlds, man. It's like Texas and California next door to each other. You have one
the last couple of years for sure.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, during the pandemic.
I've been very happy that it's been fucking pretty wild. Just that maybe it's more of, I don't know if it's necessarily like state to state Minnesota, Wisconsin thing, or if it's just small town versus metro. But my daytime at work, just the vibe versus my at home in my small town after work and on the weekend. It's like a completely different world.
I think it's both. I think it's small town versus metro, and it's Wisconsin versus Minnesota. Because Minnesota is very conservative on the big scheme things, meaning like we're scared. We're a scared state. We don't like to truly think forward. And what I mean by that is like Sunday alcohol sales, legalizing weed.
Oh, sure.
So like weed's legal now in Wisconsin, Iowa, both Dakotas, and I think even Illinois, not Minnesota.
I don't think Wisconsin, but Michigan.
I think Wisconsin then has plans for it. I think they got something on the books coming up.
I know Michigan at least.
Oh, yeah, Michigan's weird because it's both. It's both, but it's the way Michigan did it.
I have friends that go to Michigan like every couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's weird. Michigan got weird with it, right? So like Michigan, it's both are legal. But
is it legal or is it what do they call that?
Decriminalized? Yeah. It's legal.
Okay.
Right? And it's weird how they did it in Michigan because basically Michigan, you and I could become what they call caregivers. So I'm allowed to have so many plants per amount of patients, but you don't need a medical license to be a caregiver because you're not a doctor. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like technically it's medicinal, but there's
like
no
when California was medicinal,
right?
But anybody could get a fucking weed card.
Yep. Yeah. That's pretty much what I'm talking about.
Whereas it's just a loophole to like start the pro. It's like getting your foot in the door to make it legal.
Yep.
I don't even smoke pot, so I don't have a. But it's fucking stupid that it's just not. What do we?
Did you ever smoke pot?
Yeah. Just found that it wasn't my thing. When you think of like there's stereotypes with pot smokers, I was that. So
like the far out man.
Well, not so much that, but like I am not motivated to do a goddamn thing if I'm high.
Gotcha.
I'm not like I don't know. I just want to like lay down,
listen to some tunes.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to like wake and bake and go to work and be productive and clean the house and all the things that I wish I could.
Sure.
That's not where my head goes.
Yeah, I never lose any credit.
Smoking pot.
I never lose any productivity from
most people pot. I know don't. I just think if you're built that way, you're built that way.
I will zone out though. Like the weed it'll make me lose focus on being constructive and I'll get distracted and do some other dumb shit and waste a day.
Yeah.
But it's not because of a lack of motivation. Not at all. In fact, is what'll usually happen is I'll sit there, I'll be chilling, I'll smoke some weed, I'll get a great idea, And then it'll be like a truly great idea. Like, oh, dude, I should fucking fix this or build this, or I finally figured out how to solve this problem. And then I'd go and do it. And I'm not going to say like, it's because of weed, but I do think it helps that creative part of your brain open up or at least reapproach things from a different angle, maybe. Right. And it's not always like creative as in like music or art. Like sometimes for me, it's engineering shit. Like I can't figure out a way to fix something or make something. Right. Whether it's at my old job or it's remodeling my house. And sometimes I'll even be searching on the internet, YouTube and shit, still can't figure it out. And then I'll fucking get high and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, you know what? What if I tried this? And it's exactly the right answer, like to a fucking perfect fit or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, God, how come I didn't think of that earlier? Maybe it was the weed. I don't know. But yeah, point being is Minnesota's very, very conservative when it comes to that kind of shit, right? Like we masquerade as a liberal state, but we're not.
Are they just slow? That's always been like the thing, right? 10 years behind California as far as like progress.
Yeah, and that's what
everybody said.
Yeah, and I
music,
think that's,
culture.
I agree.
Style. I don't know if it's true.
I do
that's
think
like
it's
the
true.
stereotype of the Midwest in general.
Specifically Minneapolis, though. Minneapolis is mini LA for sure. Like whatever LA does, within 10 years, we're doing it in Minneapolis. From the smoking ban to whatever.
Yep.
But we also, why I say we're super conservative, even though we masquerade as a blue state, we're super conservative because, again, the weed, the Sunday liquor sales, like these are things that are way behind the curve. And we're scared until somebody like LA does it. And it's the same thing with the lockdowns. Like basically Minneapolis through the pandemic just did whatever LA did. And the state of Minnesota just did whatever the state of California did. But then you go 40 minutes east, 20 minutes east, depending on where you're at. And Wisconsin operates much more like Texas. Like it's way more, it seems to me like personal freedoms are significantly more important in Wisconsin and Texas for the most part. I know there's a bunch of people that are like, this fucking idiot, what about the abortion law? I get it. Everybody's got a hole in their logic, right? Texas definitely took a regressive step.
Weird political thing, it seems like. Not really tied to anything.
Yeah, it was a weird manipulation of it. And I think, I don't want to get too sidetracked. Let me finish my point because we just kind of stumbled on a great topic. So like Texas, other than the abortion step, because that was a regression, Texas seems to be way more concerned with personal freedoms, right? And to me, that is a liberal perspective if you think about it in nowadays terms, right? My body, my choice, that kind of attitude, right? Ironically, that's what Wisconsin is doing. Even though they're considered red and conservative, it doesn't feel that way anymore because now it's like the conservatives, the Republicans, the righties, whatever, those are the people that are like, hey man, get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. I don't give a fuck what you do with your life. That's you. You go do you. And the liberals, and the liberals are the ones right now going, if you don't think like me, if you don't act like me, if you don't get vaccinated, if you don't do this, if you don't cancel Joe Rogan, if you don't blah, 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 blah. It's like, listen, you guys with the cancel culture, with the pandemic fear, you're no better than the conservatives were in the 80s with the satanic panic.
It's circular, right?
It is.
You go so far left, you come back far right.
I've always believed that.
Yep.
That's almost exactly word for word how I describe it, too.
It almost seems like a generational thing because there's... I don't know. Maybe we're just privileged white males in our 30s. But it seems like guys our age that kind of grew up the way we grew up, whatever you want to call it, kind of fall somewhere in the middle and are tired of the bullshit from both sides trying to tell us how to fucking live our lives.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think Jamal's a great example of that too. You know, even the libertarians don't like the Republicans or the fucking Democrats.
Right.
Like most of us end up in the middle. And I think that's why a lot of people in our age group end up being libertarians because they feel both of the two parties are too far to each extreme at this point. And they are. They're both going so far one way that they're coming around and they've almost reversed roles.
The same fucking people.
Yeah, dude, because I'm telling you.
Colored shirt on.
Because I'm telling you right now, man, when I hear liberals telling gay people they're not liberal enough, I'm like,
they're eating their own.
I'm like, what are you doing right now?
They're cannibalizing their own people.
Yeah. My favorite one, here's my favorite. They've somehow duped the entire Islamic community of America into believing that the Islamic viewpoints somehow align with democratic policies. It's like, dude, Islam and the Muslims are the most anti-woman, anti-gay. You think Christians are conservatives? Sit down with a real Muslim and have a deep conversation with them.
On paper, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, because I used to live next door to them. I've met a lot of them. I've hung out with a lot of them. Kate and I, when we first started dating, I was like, check this out. Started talking to this Muslim dude. He was our driver. Started talking to him, and really preaches the whole American liberal openness thing, right? Ask him about very specific subjects, like, you don't think Muslims should be stoned to death? And dude goes, well, I'm not exaggerating, dude. My wife was like, because I told her this is what's really going on. My wife was extremely liberal when I first met her. Didn't believe any of the shit I was saying. And I'm like, watch, I'll show you. Because now that you're over here in Northeast where we have a lot of Muslims and we hang out with them, like at the bar and talk to them and shit. Yeah, talk to a fucking Muslim about how they feel about gay people and women's rights. Dude, no, they are not liberal in any way. They are the most conservative people in America. So I just think it's hilarious that somehow the Democrats have convinced them that that's their advocate. Like, no, if your Islamic policies align significantly more with the evangelical Christians. It's fucking wild. They're anti-gay, they're anti-women, classic nuclear family, the whole deal. Everything we complain about with the right-wingers, that's what Islam is. But we don't complain about that because they're immigrants, right? That would be anti-American to complain about immigrants, which I agree.
Right.
I agree with. But I just think it's hilarious because
it's because you're racist.
I definitely am. I'm racist against all people. I'll make fun of every fucking stereotype, including my own. Technically, that does make me a little racist. And I'm okay with it.
We're all going to have biases. I don't know if it's racism.
I do think we throw that word around too loosely now, but I do think everybody has racism in them because I think it's in our DNA. It's tribalism.
Isn't it normal to like stick to your own kind? I don't know what the word is.
No, that's exactly what it is, but that's even true.
Very natural.
And it's even true beyond race. But it's 100%
it's gender,
accurate.
It's age group,
political,
music.
Yep.
Every fucking kid I grew up with and hung out with in high school listened to metal.
My favorite people to hang out with are musicians and comedians. And mechanics. I don't know why, but I love hanging out with mechanics.
I like blue collar dudes.
Mechanics basically are musicians without knowing how to play a musical instrument. This is what I've learned. They think exactly like musicians. They really do. Like, you'll notice a lot of musicians are mechanics. It's kind of shocking if you really think about
like
it.
A very, I don't want to say easy because people act like blue collar things are not. You don't have to be smart or like whatever to do them, but you fucking do. But it's a very you don't have to spend 4 years in college to make a good living while still pursuing being a musician.
Right.
Like machinist, mechanic, carpenters, the blue collar trades. Every fucking musician is blue collar. Not
True.
every. Obviously not every. Every good one though.
Most of them. I mean, you're right though, because there's very few John Mayers that actually make it in the world.
Sure.
Like a privileged white kid, had a great life, went to Juilliard, was awesome, very charismatic, actually made it. Very few people
They're
are like
fucking
that.
dirty, gritty people.
Most of them.
Fucking claw their way through life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a lot
Those
of
are my people.
There's a lot of musicians that stink. Literally, they physically stink. Like, they're hard to be around because they're putrid human beings. I mean, that's what happens when you spend a lot of time on the road without a shower.
Yeah.
Without being able to wash your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how good your hygiene is. Eventually, you're going to smell like fucking ass. Just part of the reality we live in. I used to get that compliment all the time when I'd get off stage. People would give me a hug. I'm fucking drenched in sweat, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, how do you actually smell good?" I'm like, what do you mean? This is when I was really new.
Yeah.
And they're like, musicians usually stink. I'm like, what are you talking? And then I went on tour, and I'd fucking get off stage, and I'd, great show, man. I'd go up to give them, I'm like, oh. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay, now I get it. Yeah. Fucking, because a lot of those dudes are also so broke, even if they are showering, they can't afford deodorant and cologne.
Yeah. And wearing the same shirt on stage for 4 nights in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even though they did shower, doesn't fucking matter at that point.
Oh, I mean, even just like practice spaces, vans and trucks and trailers, everything.
When they get the permanent fart smell, the permanent fart and feet smell.
Yeah. Or like, for whatever reason, there's always a lot of like indie rock bands in our practice space, and it would just always smell like feet and stale weed. Probably because they smelled like feet and they smoked a lot of bad weed. But
I'm actually convinced clubs smelt better when smoking was allowed in them, because everything smelled like stale smoke.
It's just a cover scent.
Yeah, but it was so strong, that's all you smelled was stale smoke. As soon as they got rid of that, now it all smells like ass and feet. Because dudes are sweating, the sweat's hitting the stage, it soaks into the carpet.
Stale beer.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. It's sweat, feet, and stale beer.
Yeah.
That's what I keep saying is ass. It smells like ass in here.
Smells like the fucking bar towel.
Yeah, that's what the rehearsal space and van smell is. It's feet, sweat, and not because feet and sweat smell differently.
Yep.
BO and feet smell differently. That's so when I'm saying sweat, I mean BO, like armpits. Feet are feet. Everybody knows that smell. And then it's the spilled, stale, fermented beer. Oh, it gets a little sweet in there.
Right.
I'm getting nauseous just thinking about it. Ugh. Oh God, that's brutal. And we're drinking whiskey and smoking cigars. Ugh. I'm just getting fucking. It's snowballing. It's getting out of control.
Got it. Back to the Minnesota, Wisconsin thing. I don't know what the difference is. It feels different.
It is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's distinctly different. Because, like, when I go party in Wisconsin, you hear people say shit like, what the fuck did you just say, bro? This is Wisconsin. That's what happens in Texas. Like, when I went and partied in Texas.
Yeah.
I'd be hanging out with people and I'd say something, they'd be like, what the fuck did you just say? You need to take that liberal bullshit back to Minnesota, buddy. This is Texas. I'm fucking serious.
Yeah.
It's an actual mindset. Like, it's us and then there's you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Wisconsin is like that. Wisconsin doesn't identify with Minnesota. They don't identify with Illinois,
right.
Iowa. They don't even identify with Michigan. They don't identify with nobody. It's Wisconsin versus everybody. It's Texas versus everybody.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely moved there for a reason, but I don't know what that reason is necessary. I don't know if I can quantify it. But I'm glad I was in Wisconsin the last 2 years. I can say that just from like working in Minnesota and seeing all my friends and family have to deal with absolute fucking nonsense for 2 years. And not having any politicians care about how you feel about anything. At least in Wisconsin, they tried to do a lot of things and people basically said, fuck you. And he was like, fine. Do what you want. It doesn't seem like there's mob rule in Wisconsin the way there is over here.
Or there exactly is mob rule. Because again, he tried to do some shit and everyone was like, fuck you. And he was like,
depending
okay.
how, yeah, I guess depending how you would define mob rule. I'm thinking like the metro area in Minnesota rules the entire fucking state.
100%.
It's not like that in Wisconsin.
Right. The
Because
rural area runs everything.
I guess you could say there's Milwaukee and there's Madison, but there's not a Twin Cities.
Correct.
In Wisconsin.
No, I think you just nailed it. The rural areas run Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
The metro area runs Minnesota. Much like California.
Mm-hmm.
LA is California.
Right. But it's also fucking at all.
No, I just mean like as far as policies are decided though.
Right.
Like whatever LA wants, California gets. That's what I meant by that. Whatever Minneapolis, St. Paul wants, Minnesota gets. Period. Because, yeah, basically they did a mask mandate in Minneapolis, and then a lot of Minneapolis businesses complained and said, you're just driving our business into the suburbs.
Mhm.
So the governor went, okay, we'll just do it across the whole state then.
Yep.
Wisconsin went, okay, we'll just not do masks then.
Yep. Right. Or if you want to, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, you don't have to.
That's the other crazy thing is a lot of people, when I say I'm anti-mask, a lot of people think I'm anti-mask because what I mean is I'm anti-mask mandates.
Yeah.
If you as a private business want to enforce masks, I actually support you in that because you're a private business. You do whatever the fuck you want.
Right. And if your shit's good enough, I'll put a fucking mask on and come to your place.
I do it. And I've done it. And I will continue to do it. And especially, I've also done it where people just ask. They're like they have a sign when they're like, we politely ask you to wear a mask or, something like that. Oh, you're like, all right, fuck it. I'll put on the fucking mask. I'm just going in and out of here for a minute. Mm-hmm. But if you're like, you have to wear a mask and I look in my pockets and I don't have one, I'm like, okay, well, fuck you guys. I'm out of here then. I'm going to go somewhere that doesn't require it.
Especially since they don't work.
That's the other crazy thing. Like
they actually admit, no. See, even Fauci says it now. Mm-hmm. It's like, what?
Well, and it was common sense that they didn't work in the first place because they weren't surgical masks. Mm-hmm. Like if you had the real round one, that one worked, but it also had to be fitted for your face. Like you can't just go buy them at the store and throw them on. Like it takes a while to figure out the shape and the size in order to fit your facial structure. And you can't have facial hair. If you really want it to work, you have to have a clean shave. So it actually makes a seal against your face. It was so obvious that the cloth masks weren't going to work. And I was just laughing at everybody. But I got ridiculed. I'm the one who was made fun of. And I'm like, dude, think about it. You're just coughing and spitting and breathing and saturating this piece of fabric. The moment you actually have a real cough, just wet. Here's all you got to do. Wet a sponge, right? Or a washcloth, really. Mm-hmm. Put it over your vacuum hose. And then just blow out of the end. And you'll just see particles go everywhere. That's what the masks were doing. They were turning them into diffusers that just made the particles even smaller and cloud-based instead of you accidentally spitting and it just lands on the ground. And I get it. We didn't know all the information at the beginning, but the problem is the religious way they refused to back off as new facts came out.
Well, it kind of goes along with like social media stuff too. Because, I mean, like even mainstream media is only going to push things that are popular within popular culture, I think. So if something's like a hot topic on social media, of course it's going to be more popular in mainstream media too. They want fucking clicks. They want people to watch. And the thing that sucked was seeing like friends and family be absolute fucking cunts to each other over things they actually don't know anything about and things they're actually wrong about.
Sorry, my dog's fucking sitting here whining next to me.
Yeah, some of the people they're supposed to be the most caring, giving, progressive, thoughtful people,
open-minded liberals
on the planet, just raging twats to everyone.
Yeah.
That's you people there.
Yeah, we're talking about you guys. We're talking about
Quit
you guys.
Being cunts to each other.
It is quite sad.
Yeah, we don't have to agree about. We got to agree about a couple things to get along. We don't have to agree about everything.
We were talking earlier. I said the one thing that's nice about right now is like it seems like all Republicans and Democrats, liberals, conservatives, everyone is united against Russia right now. Dude, but bro, I just read a tweet the other day, and this is what prompted my conversation or my post where I said it's official, the dumbest people on earth are all on Twitter. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that post, but
I did.
This is what
I've never been on Twitter, so I don't know.
This is what prompted it. This is what prompted it. Something about like, oh, here's what it was. All the 2A supporters right now who advocate for the Second Amendment to fight against a tyrannical government are all advocating right now for the tyrannical government. And I was like, I didn't think Ukraine was tyrannical. I was like, what am I missing here? So I like read deep into the tweet. No, they're talking about, they actually said this. It was a whole Twitter thread. I just caught the middle of it.
Yeah.
They're saying that if you're a two-way supporter, you're supporting Russia and white supremacy. There's no logic to this argument. They didn't even connect actual dots. They just threw this out there. But it's got like 1,400 likes, 20,000 retweets. I'm like, this is literally the dumbest group of people on the planet.
There's got to be like something where they would draw a line. Doesn't mean it has to make sense, but I don't even follow.
There's probably a few random people in this country who identify as conservatives and sympathize with Russia.
Got it.
So it's like guilty by association. So it's like literally if I just found one Democrat who is a racist, all Democrats are racist. That's basically what they
got
do.
it. But
and that's actually me giving them the benefit of the doubt. That's me assuming there is something to connect all these threads. Because when I did my little deep dive into this whole Twitter thread and argument, there was no actual like logical mathematical thing that added up to this reality. It was just randomly Republicans support Russia. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like that
I don't get it.
It doesn't make any sense.
They have also tried to say that it's Trump's fault, which is hilarious. I've seen family members of mine like repost things about something Trump did and blah 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 allowed Russia to
because he praised Putin and he said I have a lot of respect for
office, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Putin. Putin's a great leader, which was a dumb thing to say because he's not a great leader. But I that one I at least understand. I don't agree with it. In fact, I don't think, honestly, I don't even think this invasion would have happened if Trump was still in office. And I'm not a Trump supporter. But I think Trump was crazy enough where he'd have fucking bombed anybody at any time. He doesn't give a fuck.
Maybe, but we also didn't start anything new the whole time he was in office. You remember, like, Obama was all about fucking up Syria, like, his last couple of years? And even, like, liberals were like, what? No. For some reason, Democrats have been the war hawks. I thought that was a Republican thing, but whatever.
It was 20 years ago. Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, and then when Hillary ran in 2016, she wanted to bomb Syria, and fucking Trump was like, no.
Yeah. And then as soon as it gets, it's such a
Trump did
nightmare.
bomb Syria while he was in office.
Sure.
So but that technically started under Obama.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that it's the last guy's fault thing that I can get on board with, because they all say it.
Well, that used to be the thing. That used to be like the cliche, was that the first 4 years of your presidency is cleaning up the last guy's mess. So you're not really getting anything done until your second term. Like even Obamacare didn't get passed until his second term.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, literally, whether you agree with this or not, it's an old cliche that is thrown around. I don't know if it's true anymore, but it definitely seemed like it was true for a long time. You know, Bush's first 4 years were spent undoing a lot of the crazy shit Clinton did, like the gun restrictions Clinton passed. Bush's first 4 years were undoing all of that shit, you know, and dealing with September 11th. It's funny because looking back, George Bush doesn't seem like he was that bad of a president after fucking Obama, Trump into Biden. Fucking George Bush seems rational.
Maybe as a human. I don't know about, the whole being at war for 21 years. And
now, again, I wonder, because here's the thing, September 11th happened, right? So what if Al Gore won that election? September 11th probably still happens. Iraq probably still happens. Afghanistan probably still happens. Because are we really going to allow them to commit 9/11 and then do nothing about it? I'm not sure I can actually blame Bush anymore for it. What do you mean?
Like, the people responsible for 9/11, like, did we actually go to war with those people?
I think that's what the war in Afghanistan was, and then the war in Iraq. Now that I'm thinking about this, no, I don't think we go to Iraq, because Iraq was a personal vendetta of Bush Jr. to go after Saddam. and they just used September 11th as a
whole lot of
bullshit.
Yeah.
But I do think we go to Afghanistan because, yeah, I mean, that's where Osama's base was, or whatever the fuck he was hiding in the mountains of Afghanistan.
Yeah, but it all gets so messy because there's a lot of people like pray for Ukraine right now. See a lot of that on social media. But what about like go another like a few miles over to Yemen and then Syria, Somalia, like all the other shit that's been going on for a fucking decade that's actually like funded by the US. But yeah, fuck Russia for what they're doing in Ukraine.
Well, I think it's easier though. It's simpler because you have a big bad foreign government invading somebody else's sovereign territory. It's really easy for people to make that calculation. Yeah. Good guy, bad guy, good guy. You know what I mean? You start looking at the shit we've done across the country. I'm sorry, across the world.
So technically,
it's muddy.
So technically, we're not bombing Yemen, and we haven't been bombing Yemen for years. But we are funding Saudi Arabia,
right?
In turn, funding ISIS, who's supposedly been our enemy,
right?
So they can bomb Yemen,
right? No, I'm with you, dude.
But it drives me nuts. I need to stay off the internet, which I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't. That's the only thing that sucks is I gotta be on there like farming content and shit to talk about, and like there's only so many conversations we can have about music, you know?
Yeah. I go on these like I get annoyed by it and I'll delete Facebook off my phone for like 9 months and then I'll re-upload it and it's like
yeah.
I get sucked right back in. So I'm no better than anybody else.
I'm starting to like refine each platform for certain types of deals, right? So like I go on Twitter for political news, breaking news. Whether it's political, sports, whatever. That's pretty much it, right? Instagram is like there's some good shit on there for me to find like some good funny stuff in reels and other things like that.
And interests, right? Like I use Instagram for archery stuff, guitars, motorcycles, gun stuff.
Instagram's where the sweet riffage is.
Yeah.
Like honestly, some of the best guitar players, like fuck YouTube, dude. It's Instagram.
Because
it's a 1 minute video and you're just shredding or doing something dope, whatever. I can do it. I can follow you. I can save the video, whatever. It's beautiful. And then YouTube's long form shit. You know, I watch a lot of like woodworking stuff. I watch a lot of hunting stuff. I watch a lot of fishing stuff.
Yep.
Restoration stuff. Dude, I've been getting off on these restoration videos, dude. It's ridiculous. It's so fucking stupid. This guy will find something like random shit. Like one was a cheese cutter. Cheese and cheesecake cutter, or it was a cheese and a cake cutter is what it was. So like it's a wheel and there's a little lever where you go like this and it just slowly turns this thing, and then there's a huge knife on top, so you can put an entire huge wheel of cheese on there and cut any size wedge you want, whether it's a small slice or you want a quarter of the wedge. And it was rusted and nasty looking.
I've probably watched this guy's video. Does he wear like black gloves and you only see his hands?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And he sandblasts, media blasts and shit. Yep. I think it's like Restore and
I can't remember the name of his channel. I probably follow
Restore
him on
and
YouTube,
Recover or some shit like that. No,
it's always like old kitchen and garage tools.
And then he uses it at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of every video, he actually uses it. So like then he put some cheese on there, cut it. He made a cheesecake. Put it on there and cut it. He restored he restored a bingo table and then like made wooden balls, laser etched the numbers and letters on there, and then like operated the machine. Fucking crazy.
I get sucked into weird rabbit holes on YouTube for sure.
The tables, the like woodworking and epoxy tables.
Oh, yeah.
I probably got 35 hours of fucking 10-minute videos.
Guitar making's the same way.
Yep.
I get sucked down that.
Making guitars out of crazy shit. Weird instrument or weird
colored
materials
and stuff.
I seen that one. Yeah, where dude cut them in half. Yep. Yeah. Put them all together and then epoxied them together.
Yep.
fucking wild, some of the shit out there, dude. Yeah, and then Facebook is really only there for me to connect with friends, family members, and stay up to date on very specific people's shit. So, like, I've pretty much blocked and removed anybody on my Facebook who spouts off too much about political shit. I don't care what side of the fence you're on, but it's mostly the liberals. So I blocked way more liberals on it because most of the conservatives
They're just not on Facebook.
They don't talk about politics on Facebook either. No, they just don't talk about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of people our age on the podcast admit they're conservatives or Republican.
Yeah.
And they're on Facebook. They just don't talk about their politics on Facebook. That's the difference. Whereas like every liberal I know uses it as their personal fucking
diary
mount to launch their sermon from.
Soapbox for sure. That's probably the annoying part about Facebook.
Yeah, I think you just said it best. Soapbox.
Yeah.
That's their soapbox. And it's annoying. It's like listening to Elon Omar on Twitter. It's nothing but pandering and virtue signaling. Fucking nothing but hollow remarks and fucking...
The thing that bugs me about like the regular people doing that, to where you actually don't really have a vested interest in doing it, is all you're doing is cheerleading for people that don't give a fuck about you. There isn't a politician that actually cares about all the virtue signaling nonsense that they...
I think there's a few that do, but I think they're few and far between.
They might care about those things, but they don't actually care about the people.
That's pretty cynical, dude.
A little bit.
For me.
I get pretty cynical about that.
I think you're definitely true when we're talking about the mass amount of politicians. When we're talking about the majority of them, but I think there's definitely a few that genuinely care. Like I'm 100% confident there is at least a handful of politicians, whether it's senators or representatives or governors or whatever. I'm 100% positive there's a handful of them that genuinely believe in civil service and they really are there to serve the people. But I mean, I'm talking about like 1 to 5% of them.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about politics. I mean the people that post the virtuous things about the mask mandates and fuck you if you're not vaccinated and all those things. You're literally just cheerleading for people that don't care about you. You think Fauci gives a shit if you're like helping? I just don't get it. I don't, and I know that the people that virtue signal on Facebook, they don't even really care that much about what they're saying.
No, they just want to be part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah. It drives me absolutely crazy. Because I've had conversations with people and they go against what they're portraying to believe online in person because I'm not part of their group.
Yeah.
Like they change who they are depending on who the audience is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think you're talking about just being agreeable.
No.
You're talking about actually...
They act like they have this stance on something, and they don't. I just don't. I don't think anyone's actually that passionate about those things.
Yeah, and then I think you're right. And then there's another group of people, though, who they are passionate about those things, even when they've later been proven wrong, like the masks or the vaccine effectiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a buddy over here several months ago, and we got into a pretty serious argument off the podcast because his whole thing was, well, you should still get vaccinated. And I'm like, why though? It doesn't prevent me from getting it or spreading it. And he goes, well, but it prevents you from being hospitalized. And so I pulled up an article and I showed him, and I'm like, the majority of cases are now vaccinated people in hospitals. So everything you keep bringing up as to why we should all get vaccinated now, we're not talking about a year ago. We're talking about now. Everybody still they're all false. But he couldn't let go. And literally he was like, I just don't want you to die, dude. And I was like, first of all, that's none of your business, right? Second of all, everything we just talked about showed I'm not at risk to die from coronavirus. End of story. Like, there's nothing left to argue about. But he was speechless, and he hasn't talked to me since. Because he can't admit he was wrong. Because the people he chose to follow, the people who brought forth facts and used science, where those facts and science has now shown that data to be wrong.
Which is fine.
Exactly.
That's what science is for.
Exactly. That's my fucking point, is when the data showed one thing, you lean to believe that. But when the data later revealed that first thing to be false, they haven't changed their attitude or their mind and come to the truth. They're still holding on to it. They're like the fucking crazy evangelical Christians. Like, when you point out fallacies in their logic, they get obtuse, they get snarky, they get nasty, they get offended, and they
God
get
works
mean and
in
they lash
mysterious
out.
ways.
I mean, I do believe he does, but I also have problems with my own deal, right? So I question my own religion. If I'm able to question my own religion and have issues with my own religion and my own God, how come y'all can't do that with your own science? Because real science does, right? Just like in religion, they say it's very healthy to question your own religion. It's actually written right into the Bible. Blind faith is not faith. It's actually also written in the Bible. Questioning things and choosing things because you see the ultimate true wisdom in that. That's what enlightenment is, right? Same thing with science. Questioning everything and only believing it's true when you have undeniable, overwhelming information. That's what science is. But that's not what we're experiencing right now. We're experiencing kind of the opposite. We're experiencing a lot of hard, factual, reliable data showing the vaccine's not effective for most of us, right? You still get it, still contract it, still pass it, and you can still be hospitalized for it. So the only people that should get vaccinated right now are people in at-risk groups, obese people, people with pre-existing health conditions, things like that, right? Why can't they just admit that? How are they any better than the evangelical Christians?
Yeah, it's circular logic.
It's the same thing with, like, the conservatives want, here's a hypocrisy on the other side. The conservatives want the government out of your life, right? What they've been preaching, personal freedoms, personal responsibility, personal freedom, personal responsibility. And then Texas and Alabama turn around and make abortion illegal. It's like, how is that small government? How is that the government allowing you to make your own decision? It's the exact opposite of this. So both parties are completely hypocritical. So to bring it back to what you originally brought up, is most of us in our age group find ourselves somewhere in the middle. Because neither party in their strictest forms make any fucking sense. They just don't.
Right. But at the same time, like, devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
If you passionately believed that abortion was murder, wouldn't you fight to make that illegal? I'm not saying I believe that.
Depends on your motivations, right?
Yeah, that's why.
So like, if you're religious,
actually,
if you're religious, sure, right? Because you said evil, right? Good and evil; those are religious ideas. So yeah, you'd fight for that till the end of the day. But if you're just a Republican and you believe in small government and personal choice and privacy, because you know that's how they made it legal, right? Hold on, let me start over. Do you know how they made abortion legal in the first place? Because it wasn't constitutionally like, no, abortions are legal. There was never a law that was passed that said abortions are legal. Roe v. Wade says what happens between a woman and her doctor is a medical privacy issue, and the government has no right to know what happens between a patient and a doctor. Came under the I think it's the Fourth Amendment, privacy laws. That's what it boiled down to. That's how the Supreme Court settled on Roe v. Wade. It was a privacy issue between a patient-doctor confidentiality. That's what I'm thinking. Patient-doctor confidentiality. Government has no right to know. Just like you between you and your attorney. The government has no right. Alabama said, yes, they do have a right. Texas said, yes, they do have a right. That's how they passed it. It's really that simple. That is hypocritical to the true core conservative beliefs of the Constitution. If you're a true conservative and a true Republican and you believe in small government and the Constitution, you have to legalize abortion based on the idea of small government and staying out of people's personal lives. Republicans and conservatives should also be pro-drugs, pro-legalization of drugs for the same exact reason. But they're not, because the government only wants you to stay out of their lives as long as it's involving your religion or money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Republicans really care about, is money and religion. As soon as it comes into me getting high,
right,
or my girlfriend, having an abortion because maybe she got raped, doesn't matter to them. Now they want that done. But they also don't care if you have the money or the means to support that baby. This is the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll let you have that baby. But they don't want it on government assistance either, because that's another big thing with the government, with the Republicans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want welfare. They don't want government assistance. So, you see what I'm saying? So they want to force you to have a baby you can't take care of. And both of you now are going to have a shitty life for it. Come on, man. This doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
This is Republican logic that doesn't track for me.
Right.
This is why I say on this podcast, my Republican views and my liberal views are the same, and my Democratic views and my conservative views are also the same. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people understand what I just said. I think a lot of people are like, what?
With political parties, I feel like they're just going to take the opposite view of the other party on any given subject. I don't think people are actually that fucking passionate about the things they say.
Well, the Republicans put that in writing. The Republicans in like 2016, 2017, something like that. Maybe it was actually right before that. It could have been in 2013, 2014. But somewhere in the mid-teens of the 2000s here, the Republican Party, they had a meeting, and they actually put their new, I'm going to call it a manifesto. It's not a manifesto. It's their doctrine or whatever, their new political strategy for the next however many years. And it was literally in writing, whatever the Democrats are for, we're against it. We let them pick the battleground, and we're just taking the opposite side of things.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's fucked, dude.
Yeah.
That's not principles, man. It's exactly what you just described.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what I believe. If the other team is for it, I have to suddenly be against it, or I'm not a team player.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, dude. I have my own, and that's why I won't be a Republican, like a true Republican. I'll never be a true Republican. It's fucking insane. I can't be a Democrat either.
Right.
I can't, because they're insane.
I don't know if I can be a libertarian either.
No, because they're fucking nuts too. Fucking Jamal, I'm sorry, buddy, but y'all I've told them on the podcast multiple times. They're too anarchy for me.
It's not even the principle of it. Like, they always come back to the same phrases, right? The libertarians. The non-aggression principle. That's like the main thing that they focus on. Personal freedoms, liberty, and non-aggression principle.
Yeah. That's what the smart ones say.
They're absolute fucking twats to each other on the internet. How is that not being aggressive? Right. Fuck you. I just have a hard time.
They're talking about physical aggression.
I know.
Like literally, like, because I've confronted Jamal on that, and he's like, we're talking about physical aggression.
It's about anti-war, and
it's really about anti-violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, enforcing anything with force.
Words are violence.
That's a liberal perspective. Don't lump in Jamal with those fucks. He'll become personally offended, and he'll send you a really harsh email. What is this, 2002? He'll send you a nasty Facebook message.
It's the loud ones on any side, and there's more than two sides. All the loud ones suck.
Yeah, and I've talked about that on the podcast too. I don't think I read it. I think I heard it as a quote. It was probably on Rogan when he was having like the Twitter guy on. Jack Dorsey, I think his name is.
Yep.
Basically, here's what it boils down to. It's very similar to the 90-10 ratio. So it's like 90% of the hits on the radio of all time are made by 10% of the artists who have ever been on the radio. Out of those groups, the number one hits, so like out of all the top 40, right? 90% of the top 40 hits have been made by 10% of the artists. Out of all the top 40 hits, 90% of the number one hits are made by 10% of those artists. And it's just this very consistent thing that just, no matter what you look at, that's just kind of how the world seems to work. Very similar to Twitter. And it's something like 97% of the tweets are made by 3% of people on Twitter. And it just keeps funneling down from there. Like, and the more you look at it, the more extreme those people get. So it's exactly what you're talking about. And ironically, the best way to phrase it is the people with the loudest voices on the internet represent the smallest groups of humanity.
Right.
Fucking weird, dude. Let me ask you this. How many Americans do you think right now identify as gay? Percentage-wise. Don't put a number, just put a percentage on it.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Just guess. Just take a wild guess. There's
7.
no right or wrong. 7. That's surprisingly close, but still super high by over double. It's like 3%. But based on Twitter, you'd think it's like half.
Sure.
You'd think it's like half of Americans identify as gay or bisexual. No, it's like 3% of us. And then when you start looking at like the trans community, it's even smaller. It's like 0.3% or something like that. But you look at any fucking social media, you look at any platform, you look at any TV show or movie coming out, and there's a fucking non-binary or a trans person in every fucking thing. There's gay people in all of our media now. And I'm not complaining, but it is a definite distorted perspective as to how the real world actually is. Very distorted. Like there's not that many trans or non-binary people. I think if you live in LA or Minneapolis, we have a greater exposure to these cultures. We're very accepting of them.
Yep.
And they live in practical harmony with us. I'm friends with fucking Jen Dean, and she talks about a lot of trans violence and shit. And it's pretty alarming. Like it's pretty disgusting. Right. Some of the shit she sent. I'm like, man, that's fucked up. But also, that's not how the most of us think about trans people or gay people. Most of us don't care. Same thing. So, right, like there's 3% of us who identify as gay and like 0.3% that identify as trans. I bet you there's 3% of people that give a fuck whether you're gay. Right. There's 0.3% that give a fuck whether you're trans. Yeah, it's just such a small percentage. I just
don't care.
But that's all we hear from.
Yep.
All we hear from is gay and trans and anti-trans and anti-gay. 97% of us or 93%, whatever, we're right here in the middle and we don't give a shit.
Right. Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That's what I've been saying, man. Like, and I've been saying it. I think we need to change our attitude culturally in this country to stop broadcasting your sexuality, because honestly, it's none of my business. Like, I should be able to sit here 3 hours, do a podcast with you and never know or give a shit whether you're going home to bang a dude or a chick tonight. I would like us to get there.
Right.
Almost like in Europe where you don't ask people what they do for a living. In America, that's standard opening conversation. What do you do for a living? That's how we start conversations. In Europe, that's bad manners. See what I'm saying? I want us to do that with sexuality now. I think we need to go that route. Like, don't fucking worry whether that dude's gay or not. That's right. It's literally irrelevant to the character of his humanity, and it's also irrelevant to whether you two can get along or have a conversation. Find actual common ground. You like football? You like baseball? You like music? Oh, you do? What kind of music you like? Oh, I love that band. Boom, now we're talking.
You're just getting to like identity politics in general.
Is that what I'm circling around to?
I think so, because it's how you identify and like putting your identity as number one in the world. Like, this is how I want the entire world to see me. I don't think we're that simple. Like, whether you're gay or straight is not the most important thing about your character as a human.
To you.
It shouldn't be to anybody.
It shouldn't be.
Which is what you're saying.
Right.
And that's whether you're black or white. That's whether you're gay or straight. That's whether you're right or left. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Who are you as a human?
Right. Yeah. Principles. Because somebody asked me, they go, so why are you so fucking blah, blah, blah? And I said principles, and they kind of chuckled at me. And I was like, don't fucking laugh at me. That's why we got problems.
Right.
Because I answered your fucking question honestly and you laughed at me.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up, dude. That's way more fucked up than anything I could actually say. Laughing at somebody when they're honest in answering your question, that's fucked up. Because that's condescending, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, I have fucking principles, whether they're right or wrong. That's what principles are, is you stick by them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not morals that can change as you age. Principles are principles. Like, for example, rape is wrong. I'll never, ever, 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 ever be like, yeah, okay, but in that case, rape was okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't have a principle when it comes to war, right? I'm not an anti-war guy. That can't be one of my principles because sometimes war is needed. Sometimes war is justified. You'll also never hear me say violence is never the answer.
Right.
That's a stupid principle to have because sometimes violence is literally the best answer. And sometimes, more often than not, it's the only option because you've exhausted everything else. So don't tell me violence is never the option or never the answer. Sometimes it's how about every fucking war ever? Like, that's a principle, though, is what I'm saying. And so I when I decide, for example, I don't trust large corporations, period. That's a principle of mine. I don't give a fuck if it's Tide. I don't care if it's GM or it's Moderna. They're all large corporations that don't give a fuck about me. That's a principle of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, if you understand that principle of mine, you can track that and kind of predict how I will fall on pretty much any subject. That make sense?
Yeah.
That's why it's a principle and not just what I currently think or believe.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So to bring it back, a lot of these guys nowadays don't actually have principles because it's identity politics. So it's whatever I'm currently identifying with. And they're, as long as it's a keyboard involved, they're willing to die on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
But you meet these motherfuckers in person and suddenly...
Most people are fucking cool in person.
Yeah, or cowards.
Sure.
They'll mouth off on the internet but won't say shit to your face.
Mm-hmm.
See, now that's not a principle. Because if it was a real principle, you'd actually fight for that shit.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean when I say I don't actually think people are passionate about what they say online.
I think that's exactly what it is. They don't actually have a principle foundation in what they're arguing.
Right.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's just what
They're
they
just
currently
cheerleading for people that don't give a fuck about.
I think you nailed it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you guys don't have any questions, we'll give it a few seconds. But if you guys don't have any questions, I think that's kind of a perfect place to wrap it up. Yeah, these guys are just cheerleading for people that don't actually give a shit about them.
I don't give a fuck about you.
Biden doesn't give a fuck about you. Trump didn't give a fuck about you. Elon Omar don't give a fuck about you. Jacob Frey don't give no fucks about you. Yeah, if you guys got any last minute questions here, throw them into the chat. I can see there's a handful of people still watching. There's a couple people over on Twitch, a couple people on YouTube. If you guys got any questions, throw them in now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to relight the cigar, and then
I sleepy.
by the time I light the cigar, if there's not a question in there, we're going to wrap it up. Second.
One of these times, we're going to talk more about hunting, meat, and archery. I promise we will.
I wanted to get into it this time, but when I brought it up, you didn't seem like you were into it. It was at the beginning.
Yeah, I think we just like weaved into a different conversation.
That's the thing. It's really hard to be like, I want to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this.
It would seem more like an interview than a conversation.
Yeah, and it's just tough because like sometimes guys are really passionate about things, but they don't want to talk about it. They want to do it.
I don't like talking about me, so it's a thing.
No, dude, and I get it. Like I know a lot of guitar players that I've had on the podcast where they love playing guitar, they love practicing, they love jamming, but they don't want to talk about it. They just want to do it. They're like, dude, I didn't come here to talk about my practice routine. I came here to hang out and drink beers with you and bullshit about religion and politics. Right. I'm like, okay. But then I get emails and not emails, but I get messages and text messages from people. They're like, what the fuck, man? Like, I wish you would ask him about this. I'm like, dude, he wasn't into it. Dude. And I don't even have to ask those questions anymore. I can just get the vibe while we're here.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I'll fucking ask a question. If a guy gives me a short answer or, whatever, we move on. It's exactly like you said. Otherwise, it turns into an interview and I'm just sitting here rapid firing shit at you. No, it's always been more about the hang and everything else. But
yeah,
it's also really about rebuilding our community and bringing everybody back to kind of a collaborative standpoint. Not to use a buzzword right now. Collaboration seems to be the new buzzword, but I do believe in collaboration. I always have. I've never started the Jared Singer solo project for a reason. Everything, even when I did write the majority of the music, it was still a band name for a reason, because I love collaborating. You look at some of the greatest movies that have been made in this century, they're collaborative efforts between studios. I mean, fuck, dude, the way Marvel and Sony are working together with the Spider-Man shit, it's cool. It's shit that would have never been done 40 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, then you look at these new football teams where, you've got front offices collaborating with the coaching staff and they're winning Super Bowls. It's a buzzword, but it's also truly happening. You look at nations, countries that collaborate with trade and innovation. It works, man. The world is definitely a better place for it. We get better technology, better trade, better economies, better art, everything. Collaboration really is out there for it, bro. Not to beat a dead horse, but it is a great buzzword, and I agree with it. So, all right. Well, I don't see any questions popping in. I relit my cigar, so thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate it. Make sure that you guys fucking like, subscribe, share. I'd like to see these videos start doing a little better again, since we're resurrecting the old YouTube channel after that long break. We basically killed the channel, dude. I took like 2 months off to get my shit sorted with my family after my dad went to the hospital, and YouTube was just like, all right, you're done. It's pretty rough, but yeah, appreciate you guys joining us, hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast, dude, and appreciate you coming back here. Here, I'll give you a little bump of whiskey.
Thanks for having me.
I'm gonna give you a little bump of whiskey so we can cheers on the way out. Hold on. And I've been sitting here sipping. You've been shooting these.
Well.
Oh no, you had 2 whole shots of whiskey.
Right. Over 3.5 hours or whatever it's been.
and a soda and a coffee. Cheers, my dude. When do you want to come back on? I feel like once a year is a little too spread out. You want to come back on in the summer?
Well, I was going to come back like December, and then family things.
Yeah,
couldn't make it.
It's all good, dude.
Yeah. Maybe a little. September's basically a no-go. So we'll.
Well, that's fall.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm talking out loud because there's a microphone.
Let's do it. Let's do it in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Let's look at like June or July. Let's do it.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll be a little more. I've been shooting archery leagues once a week, but I'm not like full in right now. So when that's more in my brain, I bet I'd be more blabbing about it.
One thing we should have talked about is the idea of us jamming together and collaborating.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I kind of wrapped up on too, talking about collaborating. But yeah, the idea is that with the new adjustments to the project, I'm tracking all the drums and all the rhythm guitar. Joe from Revenant Soul is going to track all the bass for me because he's a fucking absolute monster. And he's probably my favorite bass player on the scene. No disrespect, Jamal. But when you come see this kid, you're going to be like, that's my favorite bass player on the scene too. When you see him, you're going to get it because he's that good. Yeah, I think we're going to get a different lead guitar player on each track now. I think that's how I want to do it. So maybe is what I'll do is I'll either pick a track for you or I'll send you a bunch of shitty scratch demos. That's what I probably should do. And then just tell you to pick a track.
Yeah.
Like, which one do you want to jam on?
Right.
And then I'll tell you what ideas I have, right? So like, okay, when this verse in this song kicks in, if you want to do this song, don't play this riff with me. Don't harmonize this riff. Write an entirely secondary riff over the top of it that blend together.
There can be any vocals on this?
Oh, yeah.
Before I would hear it?
Maybe. I can send you scratch demos where they're not good vocals. Like Jeremy's really pitchy because he was drunk and he was just, like we're fucking around in the space. I can send you those. So you at least get an idea as to what's happening, when, and where. And then there's also certain spots where I'm going to be like, okay, here's the deal. Jeremy's not actually going to sing over this part in the real song. Like, he's just throwing shit at the wall here and seeing what sticks. So ignore this part. Or I know I want a harmonized guitar player in here. Or I know I want a solo here. I'm more of a director than... Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I'll be like, here's what I'm thinking. And if you send me something back, I'll even be like, hey, give me more Kirk Hammett. Give me more Eddie Van Halen. Give me more whatever. Give me more Slash. try to push you in a direction, but it really still comes down to like you're gonna write your own parts, dude.
Yeah. I usually like to wait until there's vocals on stuff.
Really?
Yeah. I don't like walk. I guess as you mature, you don't want to walk over vocals.
No, I appreciate that.
Depending on the style of music, guitar is not the main fucking focus in a song. It's just not.
100%. Well, especially because like
the song as a whole.
No,
So
I
I wouldn't want to walk because I definitely have a tendency naturally to try to write catchy melodies over choruses and that kind of stuff, and a lot of times they just don't work with the vocals.
Yeah, I also like to tell guys, listen, go nuts. Just do whatever you want, wherever you want. Because who knows?
Sure.
You might do something so dope in a certain spot. I'm like, you know what? Nope, that's it. And I might even tell Jeremy to stop singing in a spot because I'm like, actually, I would rather have the vocals back off and give the second guitar player room to breathe here. Because what he's doing is so dope. We're actually stepping on his dick now instead of the other way around as a guitar player stepping on your dick.
Yeah. Maybe. I've always kind of had like this Rain Man thing, just being able to figure out what the hell part is what.
Me too.
So,
you mean like, oh, this is the verse, this is the chorus?
Yeah, you just know.
Yeah, when you know, you know. And that's a songwriter deal, right? Like you don't actually have to be good at your instruments. You just...
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because like I knew exactly what you're talking about as a drummer. I knew that from day one. I didn't even know how to play drums, but I knew like, oh, this is my verse, so I'm going to play this way. This is the chorus, so I'm going to do this. And like you start layering and building things and learning how to open and close and bridge and fucking fall. And
I've always kind of looked at songwriting visually. Like you could almost see... it's really hard to explain in words how you see music that you hear.
No, I do. I straight up have synesthesia, so I actually see sound in color. So when I hear you play certain things,
I think I've heard you say that before.
I literally see a color and I start painting an actual picture, including almost like a movie as the soundtrack moves on throughout the entire song. Like I see it's moved far beyond just a color into an entire visual, like a vibe. Like sometimes it's literally like, oh, I can see myself driving down the road with the windows down in the middle of the summer at sunset, listening to this. Like it's not even just a color anymore. It's an entire vibe. It's an entire energy. It's an entire moment where it's like, this is like a cruising riff.
Soundtrack for a life experience.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah,
yep. And then sense. I definitely see that thing in shades of color as well. Like, oh, I see a lot of greens here, like different shades of green too. And like, oh, but then when the harmony kicks in, it's like this weird like orange. And like now I have green and orange, which don't even go together. Like that doesn't even look good, but it sounds good. Like, and so I start identifying these things these ways. I just picked green and orange because those are the two guitars sitting behind you, but you get my point. Like,
yeah. And I've always seen it as like ups and downs in different textures.
Like a roller coaster?
Sort of. But like a three-dimensional way too.
Right. Yeah, where you're actually feeling...
Things build and climax, and there's high points and low points.
Yep. And sometimes you can feel the loss of gravity. Like the roller coaster analogy. Like we built up to this point,
and then it's just...
And then we're going to cascade down, but when we cascade down, the bottom falls out. It's not just like we're going down. It's like we're falling, which means the bottom has to drop out of this thing so quick that you actually like almost get that weird like stomach flip feeling. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often anymore, but like when you actually get goosebumps from music, and like those are the things I see when I hear music. Those moments in a song. I don't know if I've ever actually like made something that does that to someone else, but that was kind of like the goal, I guess.
Yeah, get other people to feel the way you feel.
Yeah.
I think that's what
Isn't that what fucking music is?
Yeah.
Supposed to be?
I was just going to say, I think that's what most of us are trying to do all the time. Is like,
isn't that art?
Here's how I felt.
Point? Yeah.
Here's the art that I created while feeling this way. And if I did my job, you also feel that way while looking or listening.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the definition of art.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, dude. I think that's it. Yep. Now I
Goddamn.
have a philosophical answer for my friend that said, if an AI can create art that is indistinguishable from a human, is it still art? And I said no. And he said, but if you can't tell it wasn't made by a human, why?
Because you can fucking feel it.
That's the point, is that art is made through recreating a feeling. And truly great art, you're able to transport me into your emotional state when you made that art, which could have been 30 years ago. But I still can feel it now. In a time when my technology doesn't even allow me to relate to your lifestyle. But I still feel that. Like a Bruce Springsteen, right? Never worked a day in his life in a factory.
Right.
Yet every blue-collar worker in the fucking country loves Bruce Springsteen. That's fucking art. It's blue-collar art, but that's still fucking art. I think that's a great point to wrap it up. Thank you, guys. We love you.